is the human mind that needs to be convinced about a service or a solution. And the moment human mind comes into picture, there are multiple things rather than just the technology part of it. Technology was Technology is an enabler, and technology will remain as an enabler. Despite putting up so much of artificial intelligence or machine learning into our platforms, it is the people, the stories, the spoken word, the smile, the video touch, uh, and then, if needed, taking a leap of faith and going to meet for a coffee. All of that put together makes a good recipe for a sales
for a
lead.
sales lead.
So whether it
Whether
is
it is
5,000
5,000
emails or 500 emails, ultimately it is the person based selling, and that will always remain the hallmark of sales. Great systems like Salesforce or any other CRM systems can never be greater than the salesmen themselves. And that's what I believe.
Yes, definitely. A sales person has to be more equipped with the product and the services, and that is there. So it was so wonderful to talk to you, Sitesh. And from this discussion, I think the takeaway is that you should have a creative story, and you should have a platform, social media platform, and technology to really reach out to the people. And then gradually you will come, you will be able to make a funnel, because you can even direct your mails or your creatives or your advertisement to certain defined predefined customer also through media, uh, social media. So I think the sales parameter has changed, the sales platform has changed, and we have to be equipped with the new technology and the new method of sales through social media, creating a creative story, and of course, product has to be good enough to lure the customer and the client. So that is one of the basic things. So as usual, it was so wonderful to talk to you today. We'll meet again with some interesting topic next time. Till then, bye bye. Take care.
Thank you,
Thank
Kanchan. Market is
you.
and you.
Bye.
Hello friends, welcome to Akulmach Live. I am Chandrakant. Today we would like to discuss about how state of Hyderabad got integrated into India during 1947 at the time of independence. And for this discussion, it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be a sort of a brief history for all of us, and many people may not know what actually happened, and what are the kind of efforts the Indian government and the founding fathers had to do to integrate India. And this is going to be very nice learning for all of us. So stick around to this outstanding show which is coming up. But friends, also stay till the end, because there is a free giveaway, and we will tell you in the end how you can actually win your free gift. So let's start our discussion. Friends, let me introduce our guest today. His name is Mr. Jeet Bhatt. He is a practicing lawyer at Ahmedabad High Court, and we are very honored to have him here on our show. Today, we want to discuss about how Hyderabad was included in India during after the independence, during before 1950s. So Jeet will update us more on this from the legal aspect. So without further ado, let me have Jeet talk to you.
Hello, Chandrakant. Thank you for having me on this show. And I'm looking forward for this discussion with regards to the state of Hyderabad during the independence and how it got integrated into India.
Yeah, certainly, Jeet. In fact, there were a lot of stories, and there could be some misconceptions also among the people. And what really transpired, because I think one thing that we know as normal Indian citizen is that Hyderabad wanted to merge in with Pakistan and not with India. And then what happened? So we would like to know from you.
Yes, Chandrakant, certainly it's a very interesting historical uh, feat that India achieved by integrating Hyderabad after so much of turmoil and after so much that went into the discussions, negotiations, persuasions, when Sardar Patel was at the helm of affairs as the Minister of the Ministry of States, and also the role played by Lord Mountbatten and also VP Singh, VP Menon, who was the Secretary of the Ministry of States. So certainly a very interesting historical feat achieved, and let me give you the brief background how it happened. Uh, so basically, Hyderabad state was founded originally by Mir Kamruddin in the year 19 in the 17th century, and he was made the viceroy of the Deccan by Aurangzeb's successor. Now, the Emperor Muhammad Shah conferred on him the title of Asaf Jah. So that is how the dynasty came to be known as the Asaf Jah dynasty, which was ruled by the Nizams of Hyderabad. So the in 1911, the Nizam was Mir Usman Ali Khan Bahadur, who had succeeded the Gadi and was the seventh Nizam of the state of Hyderabad. Now, geographically, Hyderabad was in the heart of the country, and also it was a very rich state with regards to population, revenue, and its importance. And it connected North India to South India. So it was in the center and the heart of the country. Now, at that time, the Nizam was ruling an area of around 82,000 square miles. And the Hyderabad state had its own coinage, currency, and also stamps. Now, the population of Hyderabad, interestingly, was predominantly Hindus, whereas it was ruled by a Muslim ruler. So around 80 or more than 80% of the population were Hindus. But the civil services, the police, the army, and all other services and posts were predominantly occupied by the Muslims. And even the Legislative Assembly, which was set up in 1946, had majority Muslims over Hindus. So when the Independence Act of 1947 was implemented by the Britishers on 3rd June 1947, the Nizam issued a farman declaring his intention of not joining either Pakistan or India, as he wanted to become an independent state from 15th August 1947. Now, under the Indian Independence Act, all the rulers were had the option of either acceding to India or to Pakistan or to retain its sovereignty and declare itself to be an independent state. But it is because that independence was given to them, the Nizam thought it fit to declare himself to be a sovereign state and to have an independent state where he would be ruling. So he did not want to accede to India, as that would have compromised his sovereignty and therefore his delegation, which he had sent to the Ministry of States in Delhi, suggested and also threatened that if he was pressurized into acceding to India, he would rather consider joining Pakistan. And also certainly Pakistan influence was also there, and also they were prompting him and also supplying with a lot of arms ammunition. So therefore that angle was also there, and at that time also there were issues with regards to Kashmir. So so therefore the India could also not put much pressure, and also Hyderabad was a very rich state, and the Nizam had a lot of revenues, because in that time the annual revenue of Hyderabad was around rupees 26 crore with a population of around 16 million people. So therefore, it was certainly a rich state. It was not like any other state or any other ruler which would have easily acceded to India or would have agreed to accede by even showing some pressure or using some tact or persuasion skills. So that time it was very difficult to accede Hyderabad into India. So later on, Lord Mountbatten was trying to persuade the Nizam that the correct course for him and the best course was for him was to accede to India, because geographically it was in contiguity with India, and also culturally it had the same culture with the neighboring states. So since every other ruler had already taken a decision to accede to India by or before 15th August 1947, only three states had not acceded to India, and that were Jammu and Kashmir, Hyderabad, and Mysore. So, at Lord Mountbatten's insistence, the period was extended for these states for a further period of 3 months in order to continue with the negotiations. Now, the delegation which was sent by Nizam were pressing for not a treaty of accession, but a treaty of association. Now, that was not acceptable to India because India had entered into an instrument of accession with all other rulers. And if it would have entered into an instrument of association with Hyderabad, that would then there would be a charge of distrust and breach of condition with the other rulers, and other rulers would also come and say that now this is because you are negotiating with Hyderabad and Hyderabad is not agreeing, so you want to agree with all the conditions that Hyderabad is putting. So therefore, Sardar Patel was not in favor of even the slightest of variation in the instrument of accession. So therefore, the negotiations with Hyderabad and its delegations were not fruitful. But ultimately, later on, the the Ministry of States agreed to enter into a standstill agreement, which were in with the British paramountcy, and the state of Hyderabad would continue with the Indian dominant taking over the British Commonwealth. So that agreement, after a lot of negotiations, was finally concluded, and the final draft was the delegation then said that it would take the draft to Hyderabad, and it took the draft to the Nizam on 22nd of October, and they promised it to bring it back on 26th of October 1947. But on 26th October 1947, when the Nizam was to sign it, the standstill agreement, he postponed the signing it for the next day. Now, on 27th October 1947, around 25 to 30,000 crowd gathered around the house of the advisors of the Nizam, who were going to take the instrument of standstill agreement to Delhi, and they did not allow that to happen. They also did not allow the Nizam to sign the instrument, the standstill agreement. So therefore, this agreement failed and did not reach Delhi on 26th. And at that time, you must be aware that there was a private militia in the name of Razakars, which was a private militia uh, who was ruled by one person called Qasim Rizvi, who was a fanatic and wanted a theocratic state to be formed in Hyderabad. And he did not want Hyderabad to accede to India. Rather, he was wanting Hyderabad to accede to Pakistan. So this Qasim Rizvi, who was the founder of the Razakars, and basically Razakars, the word means that he's a volunteer who is doing social service. But rather it was a private militia and was creating havoc in the state of Hyderabad. And the Nizam did not have any control over him. In fact, what happened is he intervened and he said that you don't enter into this standstill agreement, and let there be another delegation be sent to Delhi and renegotiate the terms of the standstill agreement, and also we will not accede to India, and we will rather enter into a treaty of association rather than a treaty of accession. So they wanted to take advantage of the situation which India was at that time because of the problem with Kashmir. As on 26th October, also the tribals had attacked Kashmir and entered into Kashmir. So therefore, on 31st October, the Nizam wrote a letter to Lord Mountbatten stating that the negotiations have failed, but we want to renegotiate. And to which Lord Mountbatten was furious and said that once having agreed, and also the final draft being ready, and just your signatures were to be put into that standstill agreement, why have you changed your mind? But in response to that letter, the Nizam said that if government of India were to break down the negotiation, he would immediately negotiate and conclude an agreement with Pakistan. So these were the threats which were coming from Nizam and the Razakars, who were in control over the entire ministry and the administration in Hyderabad. Now, thereafter, he appointed a new Prime Minister, Mr. Liaq Ali, in the Executive Council of the Nizam at the behest of Qasim Rizvi. And therefore, the entire Hyderabad government came virtually under the control of Qasim Rizvi, who was the head of this Razakars. Now, this Rizvi personally went to Delhi and threatened Sardar Patel and also VP Menon and said that if government of India persisted on plebiscite, then the sword would be the final arbiter. So this was the situation, and this is how they wanted to threaten. Not only that, they also did not want to bring in a responsible government. They wanted to rule themselves in an autocratic and in an authoritarian manner by use of sword and by use of force, and did not want the people to have their rights in the state of Hyderabad. Now, despite this, the government of India knew the delicate situation and they wanted to continue with the negotiations because they knew that 85% of the population of Hindus were under the direct threat of these Razakars. And therefore, the situation was very delicate, and even otherwise, there was a lot of communal tension at that time due to partition. So thereafter, ultimately on 29th November 1947, the government of India accepted all the suggestions made by the Hyderabad Executive Council and ultimately entered into a standstill agreement. And that standstill agreement was only for a period of 1 year. So that standstill agreement with regards to the arrangements which were made were that the administrative arrangements on matters of common concern, namely defense, external affairs, and communication, and which existed between the Crown and Hyderabad before transfer of power, would be continued. And this settlement made it clear on the part of the government of India that Hyderabad would at least for 1 year not accede to Pakistan. So that was the only gain which India had at that time over the situation in Hyderabad. But under that standstill agreement, which was entered, the Hyderabad government could not have any say with regards to external affairs. So they could not have their agents in, say, countries like Europe and USA, like delegates or councillors, which a country could have. But they wanted to show their dominant position, and they wanted to have these sort of councillor services, and they appointed a public relation officer in Pakistan, in Karachi. Even after entering with this standstill agreement, they issued two important firmans immediately, wherein the first imposed restrictions on export of all precious metal from India, from Hyderabad to India, and the second declared Indian currency to be not legal tender in state. So now how a state which wants to become a part of a country can say that we will not accept your currency, or say that we will not export any precious metal out into the country from my state. So no state can do such a thing in a federal structure. So therefore, these were the problems which they were creating, and therefore the government of India ultimately told them that this violates the standstill agreement, and also the activity of the Razakars has to be stopped, and the violence which is being committed clearly comes to such a situation that there is a lot of internal disturbance in Hyderabad. So, so thereafter, despite warning from the Indian government, the Hyderabad government did not stop that, did not withdraw these farmans. And on the contrary, the government of India came to know that the state of Hyderabad had advanced a loan of rupees 20 crores to Pakistan at that time. So, which otherwise a state which wants to accede to India cannot do. The government of Gujarat cannot advance loan to different countries without the permission of the center, because that is the external affairs is only with the central government. So India as a representative will discuss with foreign countries, not a state government. So therefore, these all activities had been started and continued by the state of Hyderabad. And also this Qasim Rizvi started making objectionable communal speeches because Hyderabad was also expecting some retaliation or reaction from the government of India. So therefore, there was a lot of mistrust amongst government of India and state of Hyderabad, and this dominant class in the state of Hyderabad. So they started making objectionable speeches and also started using force, and they started looting the border areas in the state of Madras, where the villages were looted. There was arson, there was murder, rape, etc. by these Razakars and also by the Hyderabad troops in different territories of state of Bombay, in state of Madras, and also in other adjoining states. So state of Madras had to sought for the military aid of the government of India, and they had sought for this military help. But the government of India did not want to immediately react and send its military, because it wanted to negotiate and in a peaceful manner convince the rulers that the best option for the state of Hyderabad was to accede into the Indian dominion. Now, at that time, the Razakars were perpetuating crime after crime. And on 17th June 1948, the negotiations with regards to the agreement of accession had completely failed. And Lord Mountbatten, who was the last British Governor General of India, was to leave on 21st June 1948. And till that time, this is the only state which he could not convince. And even he mentioned that he was very disturbed by the manner in which Hyderabad state was functioning. But he was also of the opinion that the Indian government should try its best to resolve through negotiations and not through use of force or military. So another incident that was quite disturbing was that the member of the Executive Council of the Nizam, Mr. J.V. Joshi, resigned, and he gave his reasons for resigning, that there was a complete breakdown of law and order situation in the state of Hyderabad. The police, he said that the police had also joined with the Razakars in looting, arson, rape, and molestation of the territories of Hyderabad and most of the Hindus. There were 10,000 Congress members who were put in jail and were detained by these Razakars and Hyderabad police, because they were wanting a responsible government in the state of Hyderabad, which was accepted by all the rulers in all different states, and therefore they were merged with the union government. Now, these Razakars were so dominant and so powerful that they had an army of around 2 lakh personals with small arms. And the state forces, the state military of Hyderabad had around 42,000 members. And also they had imported Pathans into the state as for their military. So that was the powerful military that the Nizam had. In the month of August, because there was no the negotiations were not taking any fruitful step, and they were to a stalemate position. The Nizam wrote to the United Nations requesting to arbitrate between Hyderabad and India. But the president of the United Nations at that time refused, saying that it was a domestic matter between the state of Hyderabad and the Dominion of India. So they did not intervene. But despite that, the Hyderabad government sent its delegation to America to present their case before the Security Council of the UN. And so they wanted international pressure to be brought on India so that India could not use force. Because if India was trying to use force, they could have brought military pressure, because even the Nizam was a well-connected person at that time. In fact, he was one of the most richest person in the world in those days. So, so ultimately, the situation was such that India was not in a position to negotiate or bring in any fruitful result for the Hindu majority in Hyderabad. So ultimately, in the month of September, the government of India decided that there is no other alternative except to send the military force. And therefore, the military force under the direction of Lieutenant General Commanding in Chief Maharaj Sri Rajendra Singh, it was decided that he would be the chief of the operation. And the operation was given the name of Operation Polo by the Army headquarters. And this operation began on 13th September, when the army entered into the state of Hyderabad, first from the Solapur Hyderabad road, and another division from the Bezwada Hyderabad road. And it was met with a strong resistance of the Razakars and the Hyderabadi army. But ultimately that lasted for only 5 days, from 13th September to 18th September. And in fact, on 17th September itself, the resistance collapsed. And on 17th September, the Hyderabad army surrendered, and the Indian army entered into the Hyderabad city and took over the reins. And the cabinet of the Nizam resigned, and the military commander was to be in charge of the administration. So Major General Chaudhary took charge as military governor on 18th September, and all the leading Razakars were arrested. Even Qasim Rizvi was arrested on 19th September. And on 23rd September 1948, the Nizam withdrew the Hyderabad case from the Security Council of the United Nations as well. And ultimately, he entered into the Treaty of Accession and became a part of the Indian dominion. Though India at that time could have, in fact, de-recognized him as a Nizam, but India did not abolish the Nizam because it believed that that would unsettle, that would have an unsettling effect on the Muslim community. And once a fully democratic government was established in the state of Hyderabad, then there would be no trouble from the Nizam and his personals. So therefore, both Sardar Patel and Nehru agreed that he should not be abolished. But in fact, he was given a very, very heavy privy purse, which was fixed at rupees 50 lakhs per annum in the year 1948-49. And ultimately, the administration was of Hyderabad was under the military governor for a period of 1.5 years, and thereafter under the direct control of the government of India for another period of 2 years. So ultimately, after 1952, the state government was set up, and this is how, through Operation Polo, military operation, that Hyderabad was taken over and had to accede to the dominion of India and became a part of India. But through a lot of bloodshed, because these Razakars, it is in fact, there was a lot of massacre in Hyderabad, and it is estimated around more than 2 lakh people lost their life.
That is very bad. In fact, is it true, Jeet, that they not only wanted to join Pakistan, but they also wanted India to agree to a strip of road which will connect Hyderabad with Pakistan, and they also wanted that to be part of the Pakistan territory once they join. Is it true?
So, in fact, they had a lot of crazy demands at that time when there were negotiations happening for accession. But India did not give in to such demands of the Hyderabad rulers or the Hyderabad cabinet.
I think
In
this
fact,
is a
yes, yes.
I think this is a great learning for all of us, and it's a great historic lesson that while 500 and odd princely states actually joined India or Pakistan, but then there were few who were creating problems, and this was one of them which created such a big problem for us. But I think I also heard that after the succession and when Hyderabad territory joined India, Nizam left India with his riches. Is it true?
Well, he, for the rest of his life, lived abroad, but he was guaranteed a very heavy, hefty privy purse, and also he was one of the richest Nizams. So, so probably he left, but still he donated and did a lot of activities, and thereafter showed his loyalty to India.
Well, one of our office, my company's office, are in Hyderabad, and Hyderabad is a very, it's a very, it's a worth visiting place because there are a lot of riches in Hyderabad. There are at least 15 to 20 museums which were Nizam's property. In fact, there is one museum called Salar Jung Museum, which was the wardrobe of Nizam. And it's like a multi-story building, and you can't actually visit the entire building in one day. You will need at least a week to just walk around the wardrobe. So this is the kind of riches Nizam had. He had a lot of gold with him, and I think that really fueled the Razakars during this process.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, when you see the life of these princes and these rulers, you will be amazed that these rulers had such a lavish lifestyle when the entire country was under so much of poverty. But that is why the rulership had to go, monarchy had to go, and democracy had to set in so that everybody's voices could be heard, people could be given their due rights, natural rights, the birth rights, human rights. And it was very important that rulership should come to an end and India should become a republic and a democratic country, because that was the only way forward for this country to truly achieve its potential.
Absolutely, Jeet. I think I'm very pleased and very glad that you came on the show and gave us the history behind what really happened between India and how Hyderabad actually got integrated into India. In fact, there is a very nice palace, also very world-renowned, World Heritage Palace called Falaknuma Palace, which is now owned by Tata Properties, and that is also worth visiting place. And so Hyderabad has become a tourist attraction now for India.
No, absolutely. It's now one of the most developed cities in India, and also a lot of industries and software industries also. So no doubt today it is a very fast developing city and state in the country. But this is what it has gone through, and one must never forget the lessons from the past while moving ahead.
Absolutely, Jeet. And so thank you so much for giving us the entire detail of what really happened step by step. And I'm sure the viewers will be able to understand in a very short period of time, in 10 to 15 minutes, what really happened, what were the options India had, and what was going on at that point in time. So next week, Jeet, we will discuss about Jammu and Kashmir. And for today, I'd like to say goodbye, only to catch you next week.
Thank you, Chandrakant, for having me.
We have some unique Akulmach memorabilia which will make you look outstanding. The graphics on these corporate gifts are based on the global best business practices. To become recipient of one of these gifts for free, you have to watch this video till the end and provide your valuable comments. Or you can also share your experiences. The person who makes the best comment would be chosen to become a recipient of these beautiful Akulmach gift, absolutely free, delivered to your doorsteps. The winner would also get a chance to be invited live as a distinguished panelist during our next video. What are you waiting for, friends? Please subscribe Akulmach and smash that like button.
Hello, friends. This is Chandrakant from Akulmach Technologies, and welcome to Legal Matters. Friends, as you know, in this series, we actually call expert and we discuss the legal matters which affects the people by and large in our daily day-to-day life. And today, without further ado, let me present Mr. Jeet Bhatt to you. Jeet is a very well-known lawyer practicing in Ahmedabad High Court, and he joins us from Ahmedabad. Jeet, welcome to Legal Matters.
Thank you very much, Chandrakant, for introducing me and using such kind words. It's my pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward for the discussion on legal matters.
It is our pleasure, Jeet. In fact, what I want to discuss with you today is something related to your profession. And, if we commit something wrong, general public, then we have to go to the court and fight the case. At the same time, when we are fighting our case, we have to, contract a lawyer who can represent us in a proper way in the court. So this discussion today is about related to whether a lawyer conduct or lawyers, approach towards your case and about you, is it within the purview of professionalism, or is it outside the purview of professionalism?
Well, yes, Chandrakant, it's a very important question, and I think it is the question that is being asked and raised around law schools and even in societies in open discourses regarding the professional ethics of lawyers and the duties of lawyers towards client, and also whether a lawyer can refuse to defend an accused because the lawyer thinks that he has committed a serious offense or because of his moral principle. But basically, before starting, let me introduce you my profession, that is the legal profession. In fact, it is considered as one of the most noble professions in amongst all professions, and it is not considered as a business or a business activity. The difference between having a business and being in a profession is that in a business, people sell goods or buy services, but in this legal profession, the the persons involved use their knowledge and skills. So therefore, this is considered on a higher pedestal than other businesses. It is not a commercial activity, and it is one of the most oldest professions in the history of civilization. And certainly, it is a distinguished profession, and it carries a lot of responsibilities. And throughout history, if you see, lawyers have done and given great service to the society, considering our independence movement also having all legal luminaries in this during the freedom struggle. So certainly there is a huge responsibility on the lawyers, and they have to serve the society, which is the ultimate goal of this profession. And considering that, the after independence, the Advocates Act 1961 was enacted, and wherein professional ethics and code of conduct has been prescribed for the lawyers, wherein the lawyers not just have a duty towards the court, but they also have a duty towards their client. They also have a duty towards the opposing party. They also have a duty towards their other members of the legal profession. But basically, lawyers are the officers of the court, and they are considered to be the servant of justice. So that is their ultimate goal. They are above all the officers of the court of the on the administration of justice delivery system. They play a very important part, and therefore their primary duty is to be very fair and dignified towards the court, also not to impact the decision of a court by any unlawful or inappropriate means, and to use the best of their services and skills in order to benefit their clients. But they are also not servants of their clients, because they are not bound to say or do whatever their clients say, because they also owe a duty to the court first and then to their client. So these are the broad duties which a lawyer has towards the court. Then the duty towards his client is that once he accepts the brief, then he cannot withdraw from the action or engagement unless he has an appropriate cause to do so. He cannot accept and appear in a case in which he has reason to believe that he will be a witness, and he has a duty to make full disclosure against his connection with the parties or interest before the commencement of engagement. So that is, if he if he's in any ways related to the other side or to the opposite side, then he cannot take, because there's a conflict of interest. And so he has to make a full disclosure that there is no conflict, and then only if there's no conflict he can take up the engagement or the brief. Then his duties are to have privileged communication, because all the clients who are there to engage him, inform him, or give him the details, those are considered to be privileged communications, and that cannot be shared with anyone, not even to the court. Uh, so these are his basic duties towards his client, and then he also owes a duty towards the opponent, and he has to act responsibly towards his opponent, and he cannot negotiate or communicate in any way to the opposite party without his client's consent. And also the duty towards his colleague is that he cannot advertise, or he cannot solicit work directly or indirectly. And that is why in the legal profession in our country, it is not permitted to have advertisement boards or hoardings, or they cannot use in any way try to solicit work directly or indirectly. So these are the broad duties of the lawyers towards the court, towards the his client, towards the opponent, and towards the other legal members of.
So, Jeet, you have put it very nicely, and you have actually given the definition and the boundaries of the legal profession very nicely, so that our viewers can know, what are the obligations of a lawyer when they engage with a lawyer. However, I must say that in reality, even lawyers are humans, and they are also affected by their personal lives, their ideological differences, and their political views. So, in those scenarios, what is in reality happens which should not happen? Do you have any opinion on that?
Well, yes, ultimately it depends on every individual, but the roles and responsibilities are clearly defined under the Code of Conduct and Ethics, which has been prescribed by the under the Advocates Act and by the Bar Council of India. So it is the duty of every lawyer to accept and act in accordance with such duties. But sometimes we see that it does not happen, and not every lawyer adheres to his professional ethics very strictly. But I think this is as it is a very noble profession. I think every advocate must act and are duty bound to adhere to these principles and ethics sincerely. And if they do so, then again, this legal profession will be considered to be one of the most, and it is, in fact, right now, it is considered to be a noble profession. But with respect to, as you say, asked whether the lawyer's morality or the lawyer's belief that his client is accused and can he refuse to appear. In that respect, I would like to just point your attention to the one of the rules of ethics, which provide that an advocate is bound to accept any brief in the court or tribunal or before any other authorities in or before which he proposes to practice at a fee consistent with his standing at the bar. So there is a duty uh, specifically prescribed under the Code of Ethics where an advocate is bound to accept a brief where he practices. So a lawyer cannot refuse to defend a accused person on the ground that he thinks that he is guilty or he might be guilty of committing such an offense, which might be a heinous offense, which might be related to rape or murder or any other serious offense like narcotics or even terrorist activity. So that is provided under the Code of Ethics, and a lawyer is duty bound. And if you see historically, all great lawyers on criminal sides have never refused to accept a brief only because they believe that their clients have committed the offense. So
So,
even
so
yes.
Jeet, I have a question on this aspect. See, you say that the lawyer should not look at should look at the merits of the case, and then look at from the legal standpoint, and not really bother about what is the outcome. However, we have seen many times. In fact, I'm going to quote certain incident which we have all heard in public domain. Things like cases related to Kasab, where the lawyer was not available. There was no lawyer willing to take his case. Then there were other cases also. There was a case where a small child was murdered in a school in Delhi, and then the bar council had a divide, and there are a lot of politics there. And what I'm talking about is that there were two set of lawyer. One was saying that, hey, we should fight this case. Others were saying we will not fight this case. So this is not the code of conduct as you have described today, and as we know, for lawyers they cannot refuse a client basically. Yet we are hearing this in the public domain quite a few times.
Yes, Chandrakant, you are right. There have been several such instances, specifically starting from Kasab. Uh, well, in Kasab's case, ultimately the government had to grant him access to a lawyer, and he was represented, though after much, uh, because the lawyer who was representing him was given death threats, and therefore he had to be provided security. But ultimately, he was provided because the reason being that in a democratic setup, the right every individual has a right to a fair trial. And a fair trial is not possible unless you have a defense counsel representing you. And it is every citizen's fundamental right to access to justice, and also the right to have a counsel of his own choice that is provided under the Constitution as a fundamental right under Article 22. And therefore, no person can be denied. And if such person is denied this right to have a counsel, the fair trial itself is denied, and that can lead to a travesty of justice. So, to avoid this, the legal profession prescribes for this code of conduct wherein a lawyer is bound to accept a brief. And second, he cannot decide on whether his client is guilty or innocent, because that question is before the judge, and the judge has to decide on the basis of the legal evidence which is available and produced by the prosecution, that whether he is guilty or innocent. The lawyer should not take on the responsibility of a judge and decide before the judge pronounces whether he is guilty or innocent. So that is the responsibility of the judge and not of the lawyer. Second, there is a presumption in our legal system that every person accused is presumed to be innocent until proven guilty. And this is the cardinal principle of our criminal justice system. And based on this principle, every person, if is presumed to be innocent, then the lawyer should not jump upon and come to the conclusion that he appears to be guilty and therefore refuse his brief. But there's a slight exception to this when the when the client would confess that I have committed this offense. But until that confession comes before the client, the lawyer must not presume that he is actually guilty and refuse this brief. So, so that is the basic right of every individual, and every individual is entitled to the access to counsel and access to justice. So therefore, lawyers should not refuse. Now, the second question: if what happens if a client confesses before the lawyer that yes, I have committed this offense. In such circumstances, the lawyer can refuse if he has not taken up the case. So before taking up the case, the lawyer can say that because of your confession, I think this is morally incorrect. And since you have confessed that you have committed this offense, I don't think it right to take up your case. On that ground, the lawyer is justified to refuse. But if the lawyer, having taken up the case and thereafter the client confesses that yes, I have committed this offense, then the lawyer should not refuse to carry on with his engagement in that case, and cannot refuse, because that refusal will amount to prejudicing his case before the court, and that a lawyer is not entitled to do. So therefore, there's a distinction that if before taking up the case, the lawyer does not want to take up because the client has confessed, then he is entitled. But after taking up the case, the lawyer cannot refuse to carry on with the trial on the ground that he is aware that. But then the role of the lawyer is also towards the court. There also the lawyer will have to be very careful, because he cannot permit the client to produce any false evidence. That cannot be done. So so he, if that is done, then he can inform his client that I will not be a party to leading any false evidence before the court. But if he is aware, then he should tell his client not to produce any false or misleading evidence in order to mislead the court.
Jeet, we have discussed a lot about code of conduct for the lawyers, which has been set in the legal system. However, the lawyers operate in a bar council. You know that every bar council has every large court or high court has a bar council, and sometimes the decisions are sometimes political or apolitical. It depends on the situation. So, do you have an opinion about the functioning of the bar council?
As you earlier asked, that bar associations have passed resolutions asking its members not to appear for any accused. But with respect to those resolutions, the Supreme Court has pronounced a judgment in 2010 in the matter of A.S. Muhammad Rafi versus State of Tamil Nadu, wherein the Supreme Court has said, and I quote, that in our opinion, such resolutions are wholly illegal, against all traditions of the bar, and against professional ethics. Every person, however wicked, depraved, vile, degenerate, perverted, loathsome, vicious, or repulsive, he may be regarded by the society as a right to be defended in a court of law, and accordingly, it is the duty of the lawyer to defend him. These are the words of the Honorable Supreme Court in a matter where the some bar associations and district bar associations had passed resolutions asking its members not to appear for the accused person. So such types of resolutions are clearly in violation of the mandate of the Supreme Court's judgment, as well as against the principles of legal ethic, and also in violation of the fundamental rights of every citizen. So such resolutions should not be passed. In fact, the Supreme Court has dealt with this issue in detail, and it gives an historical example in this connection regards to the trial of a famous jurist named Thomas Paine, was tried for treason, and a famous English lawyer was the Advocate General at that time of Prince of the uh, Wales area, Mr. Thomas Erskine, who was said that if you appear for this accused, then you will be dismissed from the office as Advocate General. But that lawyer, undeterred, accepted the brief and ultimately was dismissed from his office. And he, in his book, writes that, and I quote him, that from the moment that any advocate can be permitted to say that he will or will not stand between the crown and the subject arraigned in court where he daily sits to practice, from that moment the liberties of England are at an end. If the advocate refuses to defend from what he may think of the charge or of the defense, he assumes the character of the judge. Nay, he assumes it before the hour of the judgment, and in proportion to his rank and reputation, puts the heavy influence of perhaps a mistaken opinion into the scale against the accused, in whose favor the benevolent principles of English law make all assumptions. This practice has been accepted in India as well. And so, question a lawyer should always ask is not whether the client has committed the offense or not, but the question that he must ask to himself is whether the prosecution can prove beyond reasonable doubt the charges that has been leveled against him. So if that question is asked and the trial proceeds on that count, then lawyer should not refuse on the basis that he believes the accused to be guilty.
I think there is a lot of learning in today's discussion, Jeet. I think this discussion is very valuable for the viewers who are watching this program. And, many people don't talk about, professionalism in the legal world. But I think today's session is based on that. And I'd like to thank you from the bottom of my heart to bring this out very clearly that the legal profession is a very noble and very pious profession. And I think we should have faith. All of us have faith in this legal profession.
Absolutely, Chandrakant. In fact, it's my pleasure, and I'm happy that your viewers will find it informative and educational. So that is the whole purpose and idea of doing this interaction.
Certainly. So let me address the viewers. If you have any questions from Jeet or any other legal question, you can write it to us and we can bring you either live in the show or we can present your question and get an answer. So with that, I will end this discussion today. Thank you very much, Jeet, for joining us today. We will catch up again next Thursday.
Thank you very much, Chandrakant.
Bye-bye.
Hello friends, welcome to Top Brass Skill. Hello friends, welcome to Top Brass Skills Gap discussion. I am Kanchan Verma. Today we have Dr. Bharat Bhushan Singh, who is the head director of. Welcome friends, I am Kanchan Verma. Final. Welcome friends. I am Kanchan Verma
from Akulmach.
Welcome friends. Welcome friends, I am Kanchan Verma from Akulmach Technologies. We are in the show, as you know, Top Brass Skill Development. Welcome friends, I am Kanchan Verma from Akulmach Technologies. Welcome friends, I am Kanchan Verma from Akulmach Technologies. You all are welcome to our show, Skills Gap Discussion. ठीक है? Top Brass नहीं हुआ.
How do you never?
नहीं
चार सेंटेंस है तुम्हारे पास तो दिमाग में होनी चाहिए. पढ़ के बोलोगे ना कभी.
पढ़ के नहीं बोल रही.
Hello friends, this is Kanchan Verma from Akulmach Technologies. Welcome to Top Brass Skill Gap Discussion. इतना बोलना है ना?
हाँ बस.
उसके बाद डॉक्टर भरत भूषण सिंह.
Hello friends, I am Kanchan Verma from Akulmach Technologies. Welcome to Skills Gap Discussion.
Yes.
Hello friends, I am Kanchan Verma from Akulmach Technologies. Welcome to Top Brass Skills Development. Hello friends, I am Kanchan Verma from Akulmach Technologies. Welcome to Top Brass Skills Gap Discussion. Today we have Dr. Bharat Bhushan Singh, who is the director of Vishwani Institute of Management and System. एक बार और कर लेते हैं. Hello friends, I am Kanchan Verma from Akulmach Technologies. You are welcome to Top Brass Skills Gap Discussion. Today we have Dr. Bharat Bhushan Singh, who is the director of one of the premium institute in Hyderabad. Hello friends, I am Kanchan Verma from Akulmach Technologies. You are welcome to Top Brass Skills Gap Discussion. We have Dr. Bharat Bhushan Singh, who is the director of Vishwani Institute of Management and System, Hyderabad. We welcome Dr. Bharat Bhushan Singh to the discussion of skills gap in India. Hello friends, welcome to Akulmach Live. I am Kanchan Verma and today we are discussing in our serial Great Kings of India a special ruler from the history pages. But before that, I would like to remind you there's a free gift available only for you. So stick around to this episode till the end. We will guide you how to avail your free gift. Hello friends, welcome to our show Great Kings of India, and today we have Dr. Binda Paranjpe, who is the professor at Banaras Hindu University. She is one of the prominent historian in India and her work on Konark Sun Temple is very acclaimed. She is also author of many books. So without wasting any further moment, I would like to welcome her. Welcome to the show, Bindaji. How are you doing today?
Thank you very much, Kanchan, and it's so nice to meet you after a long gap.
Same here, ma'am. And today we are discussing very special ruler. And once a ruler is gender neutral, so the ruler can be a female or a male. So what king we are discussing today?
Somebody whom I really like very much in ancient history. Her name is Prabhavati Gupta.
So who is this wonderful ruler, wonderful queen of India, Prabhavati Gupta?
We can identify her with different kinds of relations. Like one, the prime for our show, that she was a ruler of the Vakataka dynasty. She was daughter of the famous Gupta king Chandragupta Vikramaditya, and she was the caretaker or the regent to a person who was very minor as a successor to the throne. So mother took care of the kingdom till the son came to an age.
And how do we know about this wonderful king?
Yeah, this is very important in history, because otherwise history will be just like stories or mythologies. History becomes history when we have got some reliable historical source for the study of such persons, and we have inscriptions, and these inscriptions of the Vakataka dynasty, and more so the inscriptions which record some act of this woman ruler. So we have a very authentic information about her from her own records, from her own inscriptions. And that makes her very special in ancient history.
So, what will be her period, what her era or date where she existed in the history?
Yeah, I mean, that's such a important phase of Indian history. As I told you, that she was the daughter of Gupta ruler Chandragupta II, and the Guptas have a very illustrious lineage, starting with Chandragupta first, then we have got Samudragupta, then we have got Chandragupta second, and the long list of rulers like Kumaragupta and Skandagupta and all that. And that period in Indian history is marked as a golden period of Indian history. So she is obviously contemporary of these Gupta rulers. So she is a part of that golden era of Indian history. So date-wise, chronology-wise, if you want to say, then she is in the first 2 decades of 5th century AD. So you can say that more than 1500 years from now, and here is one woman who successfully led her kingdom for more than 2 decades.
So, tell us about this kingdom, Vakatas, if I'm pronouncing correctly.
Vakataka. Vakataka is the name.
Okay.
Vakatakas are the rulers from Vidarbha region of present Maharashtra. So the prominent place will be like Nagpur, which is considered to be the second capital for Maharashtra state. And we have got districts like Amravati, Wardha. So all this region, which is a very significant region, because that is the place from where the central India and the Deccan part, they join. So a very strategically located, we can say, that this kingdom of the Vakatakas was there.
So now I would like to ask you, what is the special achievement of Prabhavati Gupta?
Prabhavati Gupta.
Okay, sorry, Prabhavati Gupta.
That's her name. And we are very lucky that we get this complete name, because in the present naming system, we say like Prabhavati will be her name and Gupta will be her title. But we have to understand a little bit from the ancient or the linguistic tradition of India. When A comes at the end, it becomes the feminine form. So when we say Samudra Gupta, Chandra Gupta, Kumar Gupta, Skanda Gupta, so they are males. But when the name is feminine, it becomes A. So she is Prabhavati Gupta in otherwise, but because she is a woman, she becomes Prabhavati Gupta. Now that also is very interesting thing to see, that how they were particular about their names. The rule which is there in Sanskrit about the names of the women ending with A. So she is Prabhavati Gupta. And that name, in a very correct spelling, we get in her inscriptions. So she, in terms of her taking responsibility of a very important kingdom of ancient times, she definitely must have got some support from her paternal family of the Guptas. Nonetheless, she continued looking after the matters of the kingdom for very long time, because her husband died very early and she had 2 minor sons. So I think the biggest achievement of this woman would be that in such difficult times, and especially when we are talking about ancient India, and on one side we have got Dharma Shastra texts, or we have got some references or some reflections in literary creations also, where for a widow to take this kind of a responsible position must have been really very challenging. And in that sense, as I said, that she's my most favorite personality from ancient India, because it appears that it must not have been so easy for her just simply because her husband is no more, and then the wife becomes the queen and she takes the responsibility of the throne. No, that doesn't seem to be the case. So I think one of the biggest achievements that I can talk about Prabhavati Gupta is that she managed the kingdom till her sons were old enough to take the responsibility of the kingdom.
Okay,
Being a widow.
So, do we get only Prabhavati Gupta's name as a ruler or a caretaker who has become so important in that part of history, that point of time in the history? Are there any other women who are as important as Prabhavati Gupta?
Yeah, it's a very good question. And I think those who are learning about ancient history must remember that though the number is less, very few women we know who have taken responsibilities of the kingdom and had independent rule. But it's not that they are unknown. Like prior to Prabhavati, from the Deccan region, the region that we are talking about, slightly on the western side, of course, there was a kingdom of Satavahanas. And one very important queen, her name was Naganika. And same like Prabhavati Gupta, her sons were very young. They were not of the age that they can take the responsibility. They can really rule as independent rulers. So their mother also acted as a regent or caretaker for them. So it appears to be a tradition, though not very often followed. But Prabhavati Gupta is not a solitary example, but she is one of the rare examples.
Okay, so let us discuss more about her personality. What kind of person she was and how she managed this kingdom for so long?
Yeah, as I said, that for a widow of that period, probably this wouldn't have been so easy. But she seemed to have followed most of the ideals which are set by the ancient thinkers, political thinkers, for a successful ruler. So what she did is that when required, she could become very strong. She could give a very strong message. But generally, she was showing her care. She appears to be a very caring kind of a person. And that is evident, as I said, that her children were small, her sons were small, and the kingdom had to be taken care of. And she reached up to that goal. But besides that, what we know from her own inscriptions is that she gave generous donations to learned people. And in ancient times, mostly the learned people used to be learned Brahmins, and they used to be learned in the Vedic tradition. So we see that she takes pride in giving support to the learning of Vedic tradition, Vedic literature, Vedic rituals, by way of promoting such Brahmins. And see, what is the nature of this support that she gave? Of course, that is not uncommon in ancient India. Most of the rulers have done it. But here we are talking about Prabhavati Gupta. She also did it. And that's how I say that she reached up to the ideal of being a successful ruler. She settled them. She gave them agricultural land. She gave them rent-free holdings so that they will not be burdened by the state to give them taxes. And they can divert their mind, intellect, energies towards the activity for which they have got this donation. So this kind of a support, this kind of a promotion to the activity of Vedic learning, which, as I said, is not unique to Prabhavati Gupta, but nonetheless, she also did it and did it in full capacity of being the ruler. Because here a little bit of nuance about the land which is to be donated, we have to understand that unless the king has the full control over it, how the king will donate it? So when Prabhavati Gupta is donating that land, that means she was in full control of that. Though, as I said, that she was ruling on behalf of her younger son. She was ruling on behalf of maybe of her dead husband. But when it comes to assuming that power, she is assuming it to the fullest of it.
When we talk about the kings and the rulers, it's very essential that they should increase their boundaries and they go wars. So Prabhavati Gupta also fought any war in ancient times?
We don't have much, we don't have in fact any reference to such an activity undertaken by Prabhavati Gupta. But let me tell you one thing, that the main ruler is no more. The successors are too young. They are just very small kids. And a widow is there. Now that must have given ambition to a lot of surrounding kingdoms to attack the Vakatakas and take portions of that kingdom. And Prabhavati Gupta, being there as a very strong and powerful ruler, she did not let it happen. So what I feel is that she may not have fought wars as such, but she maintained the impression of Vakataka kingdom being very strong, very powerful, capable of protecting their own boundaries. And that itself, I think, is a very good achievement of a ruler. She may not have gone for conquests like her grandfather did, Samudragupta or Chandragupta, her father did. She didn't do that, but she maintained her kingdom. And she must have maintained it by diplomacy. If not by war, then the other way of maintaining it in ancient times is by diplomacy. So though we do not have any direct evidence of saying that what kind of diplomacy she engaged herself in, but indirectly we can feel it that is what she did. And one more thing, because you asked me about her personality, I feel that we should also infer from this that she must have been trained into the statecraft. If she was just a simple novice, not knowing much about how to run a state, how to maintain relations with the neighboring states, how to get support from the people who would give indirectly the support to the state by popularizing the ruler amongst the masses, all that if she was not trained into, she had not got the proper learning into it, training into it, probably she would not have been able to do it. So we can conjecture, we can hypothesize, though we don't have a direct evidence of that. If you want me to say something more about her personality, maybe some more personal traits that I can tell you about.
Yes, before that I would like to ask you, did she took any royal titles during her period of ruling?
Not specially taken by her as such, but being the chief queen of Rudrasena II, that was her husband, she was called Agra Mahishi. Mahishi is for the queen and Agra means the first amongst the other. So she was the chief queen. And secondly, she also talks about her position being the mother of the king who is young. So she calls herself Divakara Senasya Janani. So mother of Divakara Sen. So Divakara Sen would be the prince Yuvaraj, and she uses the word Yuvaraj Divakara Senasya Janani. So she is the mother of the crown prince. So in that sense, we can see her title, but not like other rulers of the contemporary times who take very lofty titles showing their royal power. She did not take. But some titles did get attached to her name. Say, for example, she was the follower of Bhagavad religion, that is Vaishnavism. So she calls herself as the person who surrenders at the feet of uh, Vishnu, Bhagavata. Or even Ramachandra, Ram. So that way she shows her religious affinity by the kind of title or prefix to her name that we can see.
So, as a ruler, for what we can credit her? What are her achievement as a ruler, so that we can tell and discuss this personality? I'm sure she is a powerful personality, as we are discussing now. But what 2 or 3 things we can really credit her for?
Right. What I feel is that in India, we have a system of giving a family lineage from the parents, and also all families have a very specific identity which is called Gotra. Gotra identity. Everybody generally has, and in ancient times, mostly we get these details. Interestingly, Prabhavati Gupta, in her own inscriptions, says that she belongs to Dharana Gotra. And now that Gotra is not the Gotra of her husband. The family of the Vakatakas were of Vishnuvardhana Gotra. That is also called Vishnu Buddha Gotra. So from where is she taking this Dharana Gotra? That is very interesting, and that is in fact is a point of research, because that shows her personal choice of claiming a certain lineage, and not just because she's married to a person. In India, mostly the women, their gotras are the gotras of their husband. Now, how she could get the legitimacy of getting or mentioning her gotra different from her husband's is a very interesting part about her personality. Secondly, when she talks about her lineage from the parental side, like her father, mother, grandfather, grandmother, great grandfather, great grandmother, and also the beginning of the Gupta dynasty. What is very interesting here is that she mentions the women from the Gupta family. Usually, you are a son of so and so, the man. But here, she takes pride in calling herself that she is a daughter of Chandra and Kubera Naga. Kubera Naga was the name of her mother. And she, because that Naga word is there, she was from the Naga family. And Naga family is very important during this period of the Guptas that we are talking about. And this Vakatakas also have connections with the Nagas in the beginning of their family. So she is very proud in saying that Naga Kulotpanna is she is a member of the Naga family or Naga lineage. And very interestingly, she gives the names of not only her mother, her grandmother, the great grandmother. So, for example, when she's talking about Samudragupta, who was a grandfather, she says that he was the son of a daughter from the Lichavi family. So, Naga family, Lichavi family, they are not the Guptas. They are the women coming from different families. But she is trying to highlight even importance of those families in the family of the Guptas, and then relates herself with that. I think she is trying to draw some kind of a inspiration, legitimacy, power from these women who are there in the imperial Gupta family. And like we know that Kumara Devi, very important for Chandragupta first. And we have got coins where Chandragupta and his wife Kumara Devi are shown on the coin. So Kumara Devi is there, and this Kubera Naga that she is talking about. Other than that, I feel that she also adheres to the Bhagavata or Vaishnava sect, while her family from the husband's side, the Vakatakas, they were the followers of Shaivism. Like her son, when he becomes the king and we get inscriptions about the donations made by her son, or the eulogies, the preciosities of her son, he is described as the great devotee of Bhairava. Bhairava is a form of Shiva. And even when her son, who calls himself to be the great follower of Bhairava, when Prabhavati Gupta is again making a donation, not now as the regent queen, she is only just the queen mother of the ruling king, she again calls herself Bhagavata, the follower of Vishnu. So I think this very strong sense of personal identity. Who am I? I'm not just mere shadow of my husband. I like one very interesting expression we find in her inscriptions. She calls herself to be a jewel of both the families of Vakatakas and Guptas. Now imagine a woman and who is a widow. And in those days, widowhood is not celebrated at all. In fact, it is condemned, because that shows that she is not a person having enough merit. Because if the woman had enough merit, she would have died while her husband is still alive. She would not have lived as a widow. And in that kind of a society, she comes up with this expression, very beautiful poetic expression, that she is an alankara, means a jewel. Alankara means some kind of a special ornament. So she is the ornament, she is the alankara of Ubhaya Kula. Ubhaya means both. So she is an ornament of both the families.
So she did attain full royal powers as a ruler? Did she attain that?
In practice, probably she did. But in writing, she always called herself as the mother of Divakara Sena to begin with, and later on Pravara Sena. Because Divakara Sena again was a short-lived person, he did not live long. So his brother then took the throne, and she continued, Prabhavati continued being the queen mother, but then she doesn't have any administrative responsibility. What I mean to say is that even in that situation, when she is not the regent, she is not the royal authority, still she is full of her self-identity, self-respect, self-assumption. And that is very creditable.
So did she is being recognized enough in the history pages?
I don't think so. Because I'll tell you one very interesting discussion that we get in her inscriptions, and I take it as a very personal trait of this Prabhavati Gupta, that she wishes that her sons and grandsons should live life of 100 years. Now imagine a widow who saw that her husband died so early. She is wishing that her sons and grandsons should live for 100 years. But the language there is slightly ambiguous. So there are different interpretations of it. And some people, they say that Prabhavati Gupta is saying that she wishes to live for 100 years, or she lived for 100 years. And then one of the epigraphists are the people who study epigraphs, that means inscriptions. He says that this doesn't seem to be possible, because a widow's life is very distasteful. Why she would like to live for 100 years? Now, to answer your question, was she enough recognized in history? Now look at it, like, when she has got all this, still an epigraphist chooses to discuss or focus more on her widowhood than her personal achievements. So I don't think she got enough recognition, attention, focus, or as a jewel of ancient Indian history. That position she didn't get. So
Yeah,
it
I
is our
can.
duty now
Yeah.
to talk about it, to let the younger generation know about it.
Yeah, I can very well understand the situation at that point of time, because I can visualize a widow taking care of the empire and taking care of the young two kids. It must have been very, very difficult. But at this point of time, I would like to ask you why she is not being given a due credit of her services for the nation and for, of course, bringing up great kings. I mean, it is kind of she should be given a due for her whatever work she has done, and why it is not done.
One, I can obviously say that, when it comes to political history, somehow the achievements by way of war, by way of lofty claims, by way of huge eulogies and spread of empire and long reigns, having coins minted in their own name, having huge sculptures or temples built, and all these are um, the focal points for an assessment of a ruler. Now, Prabhavati Gupta didn't do any of that, and it is too obvious that she must not have got chance to do it. I mean, when she's, as I said, that maintaining the kingdom, maintaining its boundaries, looking after the two young sons, as you have already mentioned, because when the ruling king is there, the lives of the younger ones also need to be very well protected, because they are the ones in whose name she is ruling. So probably she didn't have enough time to focus on spread of empire and have conquests and build lofty temples or statues, made coins in her names, nothing. And more than that, as I said, that she was acting as a caretaker, as a regent. So all those imperial or kingly powers probably she did not assume. So when you stereotypically, when you talk about a ruler, talk about a king, all these are counted as achievements. Then Prabhavati Gupta doesn't have. So maybe that is one of the reasons that she got neglected.
So what is the importance of Prabhavati Gupta when we talk about history, and if somebody wants to really do a study on Prabha, how important it is to really know about this ruler, understand her personality and impact on the history?
It's very important from 2 points of view. One, definitely, when we are reconstructing history of women in India, she figures out one of the prominent women. But other, we also need to develop more sharp tools for analyzing history, especially to make these less known characters more known, assess their contribution, their rule, more paying more attention to what they have done rather than neglecting it because they did not do these things. Yeah, I hope you're getting my point. Rather than saying that she did not fight wars, I think it is high time we highlight saying that she maintained her kingdom. So that is the contribution, I think, because that gives us a scope to study women from a different perspective. First of all, to study women in historical times and study them from a different perspective. And as I said, that there are still some gray areas, like, why she takes that particular Gotra identity, why she talks so much about her parental family, why she is very boastful about her being from the Naga lineage, because Guptas were also patriarchal. The lineage also goes from the father's side, not from the mother's side. Then why is she and subsequent to her and previous to her? In the Vakatakas also that tradition was not there. So this exclusivity of her personality will give inspiration for others to know more about position of women in ancient India, and especially when we are talking about, very often, and I will not say that they are wrong if they are saying it, that the by and large the position of women in throughout the ancient period is not really so great that we can uh, boast about or feel proud of. But there are such examples which uh, help us to look at it more critically, look at us more inspirationally. So I think that is the contribution.
I think we'll just wind up and we'll read more
Yeah.
about this wonderful ruler. But in the last, I just want to ask you, what is the duration of her rule?
About 15 to 20 years. Because we get a date of 405, and then we have Pravarasena's, means her second son's rule in 420 already. And one thing why I'm saying must be at least 15 years, because the first inscription of Prabhavati Gupta says that this is the 13th regnal year, means the year at which the king has started ruling. So 13th regnal year of her prince of the Vakataka family. So for sure for 13 years, and immediately I don't think there was a change of power, means the young son assuming the full power, because when his father died, he might be of about 4 or 5 years. So at the age of 18, 19, even if he has assumed the power, the queen must have continued being the main uh, leader in the administrative matters. So minimum 15 years, maybe 20 years.
As usual, it is so wonderful to talk to you and to know a wonderful personality from the history which you bring every week. So we'll be meeting again next week and discuss some great ruler next week. Till then, bye-bye. You take care.
Thank you.
We have some unique Akulmach memorabilia which will make you look outstanding. The graphics on these corporate gifts are based on the global best business practices. To become recipient of one of these gifts for free, you have to watch this video till the end and provide your valuable comments. Or you can also share your experiences. The person who makes the best comment would be chosen to become a recipient of this beautiful Akulmach gift, absolutely free, delivered to your doorsteps. The winner would also get a chance to be invited live as a distinguished panelist during our next video. What are you waiting for, friends? Please subscribe Akulmach and smash that like button.
Morning, everybody, and welcome to another little version of our little insight with tomorrow's leaders. And today we've got Chandrasen, who is going to give us a nice wave. Give us a wave, Chandrasen. Nice big wave and a smile. There we go. Fantastic. And a big smile. Yeah, we're going to get a smile going through. And what today we're going to be talking about is robotics. So, Chandrasen, this is over to you. What is it about robotics that you get excited about?
I get excited by fixing the parts of the robot.
By fixing it, so manufacturing it. And do
Yeah.
you follow a plan, or do you create your own plan?
I follow the plan.
You follow the plan. Well, that's a message for everybody. And when you follow the plan, does it always work?
Not every time.
Okay, not every time. So when it does work, how do you feel?
Very nice.
Very nice. Okay. Jolly good. Well, come on then. Tell me about robotics. What have you built recently?
I'll just build a robot. Name the wheelbot.
Okay. And can we see a picture of this robot that you've built?
Yeah, I'm just sharing the screen.
Okay, here it comes. Brilliant.
This is the main body of the robot. It has all the gears and machinery in it. I'll just take out the wheel to show it to you. As you can see.
Oh, right. The wheels just click off.
As you can see.
Excellent. And I can see it's got, so that's one of the big wheels. Yeah.
It has three to four gears with a motor. The motor is powered by a solar panel, which is over
Where's
here.
you show the solar panel? The solar
Yeah.
panel's there. Well, it's on the top, so that's obviously where the solar panel is going to be.
When we keep it in the sunlight, it gets powered.
And those wires that are coming out, is that the feed from the solar panel?
Yeah. This is negative and this is positive, which transfers energy to the motor, and the gear system move the wheels.
Okay, and you talk about a gear system. So this is, you know, for the very professional people, we've got a power to weight ratio here. So this looks quite a light robot. Does it move very fast when it's ready?
No, it's medium speed.
Medium
It's
speed.
It's not fast, it's not slow.
Okay. And do you have a remote control with it, or is that something to be done in the future?
No.
There's something to be done in the future.
Yes,
So how long did it take you to build this robot?
2 to 3 days.
And what was the most exciting part about building the robot?
Building the central body of it.
Building the central body. Was that quite detailed? Was that quite intricate?
Yeah.
Did it fall apart a few times before you put it together?
Yeah, three to 4 times it happened.
3 to 4 times, but you persevered with it. So you had patience.
Yes.
Did it annoy you when it fell apart?
No.
You just decided to put it back together again, and next time it's going to work.
Yeah.
Jolly good. And what part of it was the real exciting part? So you said you like putting it together and physically following the plan. But what time did you have the biggest smile on your face?
When everything was apart.
When everything was apart? Well, all the little bits? Or when it was put together?
Yeah.
So when it was put together, that was the biggest smile on your face?
Yeah, it was.
So when it actually was it when it started to work? When you started to see it move?
Yeah, That was the exciting part.
So explain to me when it starts, when you've literally put that last piece together. Just explain to me what you did and how you felt.
I just put the wheels together. I felt very nice.
And when you put, so were the wheels the last thing you put into the robot?
It's the small wheels.
Just the small wheels at the back. Okay, so you had the big wheels on and the small wheels at the back. And it was in your hand. And what did you do then? So you must have been pushing it with your hand.
Yeah.
So what did you do then? Were you scared it might not work? Were you excited? Where did you take it to make it work?
I just read the book.
Okay, so you read the book and you've got this little robot in your hand, but how did you know it was going to work? Where did you actually go to make it work? Because you needed sunlight to charge the solar panel.
Yeah, I just went to my balcony and it started working.
Were the wheels turning in your hand, or did you put it on the floor and then the wheels start to turn?
When I put it on the floor.
And when you're on your balcony, were you worried it might actually fall off the balcony?
No, I was not.
No. Okay. And when it started to work on the balcony, were you on your own or was someone else with you?
On my own.
On your own. Did you go on your own because you wanted to see it for yourself first?
Yes.
And how did it make you feel when you saw that?
Very exciting.
Really exciting. Did you jump up and down?
No.
Did you smile?
Of course I did.
Of course you did. Okay, well, put the smile on your face that you did when that started to work. Let's see how big that smile was. Well, that's not a very big smile, is it? But how big a smile was it?
Like this.
Okay, almost. Were you punching in the air to say, yeah, it works?
No, I was not.
No? Oh, well, next time you do that, try that and see if you feel any better. Okay? Because, I mean, 2 days work is a long time, isn't it? So 2 days focus, 2 days patience, putting it all together. Were you thinking about it not working?
No.
So you knew it was going to work?
Yeah, I know it was going to work.
You knew it was going to work. So you had faith in what you'd done, what you'd put together.
Yeah. I'm working on my second project. It's the boat. As you can see.
Yeah, we can see that.
We can just take out the central body and fix it here. And take out the wheels and put propellers over here in the boat. It will start working.
Excellent. So what you've got is you've got a central control system, as we would call it, and that's got multiple uses. So it's got one use in one arena and it's got another similar use in a different arena. Yeah. So how are you going to create the propulsion? You mentioned propellers. Have you got a propeller you can show us? Or have you got to make that?
It's not with me right now. I
Okay.
can't not right now.
So you've got to make that propeller.
Yeah.
Are you going to make that from a kit like you've made those wheels?
Yeah.
Excellent. And is that's the part that you really like, is it? What is it about creating things that you like? What gives you that? Why is it so exciting when you create things?
Because it's the last part of it.
And what about the plans? Do you really look at those plans all the way through, or do you just pick up the plans and just do it?
I just read the plans and then do it.
Okay. And how many times do you read the plans?
2 to 3 times.
2 to 3 times. Why do you read it 2 to 3 times?
If I have any mistake, I can correct it.
So you do it so that you can just make sure that you've got it right in your mind, so you know how things are going to go.
Yes.
And what is it about the plans? Would you like to create plans when you get older, to make the plans?
No.
No, you don't want to make the plans. You want to stick to making the robot themselves, do you?
Yes.
And if you've got a boat, which is your next project,
Yeah.
what project would be after that one?
I will make a motorcycle.
A motorcycle. Okay. So we've gone to a robot with 4 wheels, to a boat with a propeller, to a motorcycle with 2 wheels.
Yeah.
And how a motorcycle, with a robot that's got 4 wheels, it's very stable because 4 wheels sit on the ground. How are you going to make your motorcycle be stable?
I will put 3 wheels in it.
3 wheels. Oh, that's a smart move. So how's that? How will it look like? Just try and explain to everybody how that motorcycle will look like.
It has 3 wheels in back and 1 wheel in front.
Oh, so 4 wheels. You're going to put 3 wheels at the back and 1 wheel at the front.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's going to be very stable, isn't it?
Yeah, it will be very stable.
And do you think it will go faster than your first robot?
No.
Why is that then? Why don't you think it will go faster?
Because this has only 4 wheels. It will be 3 wheels to balance it. It will not balance. So I will take more time to do it.
Okay. And you're going to use the same power source?
Yeah.
That's probably why it won't go any faster then. Because you're using the same power. Have you thought about increasing the power? What would you do to increase the power?
I'll just keep 2 solar panels.
2 solar panels. And what will 2 solar panels do to your power?
It will create much energy with, and it will have 2 motors.
So will you get twice the power, do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's what they call a linear relationship. Have you heard of a linear relationship?
No, I didn't.
Oh, you've learned something new today. If I do one thing this way and then I double it, I get twice as much. So it's a linear relationship. If I put 3 times as many, what happens?
It's times the energy.
3 times the energy, exactly. So it's linear. And it's all they also call it modular. So you learned a few new words today that perhaps weren't on your plans and in your vocabulary. So when this idea about robotics started, do you want to use this experience that you're finding now? Would you like to make a career, do it in the future when you get older?
No,
No. So it's, what would you like to be doing in the future?
I will like to do computeristic.
So computer development. And do you see this robotics as being a good step for that?
Yeah,
Well, it's been really exciting talking with you today. What one thing would you say to young people that are watching out there about what they should be doing?
they should build robots.
And what would that help them do?
It will help them to in the future. They will help them to make robots.
So it's good to help. It's good to get the mind thinking about creating robots, because in the future we're all going to have robots, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, robots are going to be doing everything for us, hopefully. Well, good luck with your next project, with your boat. And once you finish that, perhaps we can have another discussion about what it was about your boat.
Yes, sir. I will let you know.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, we're going to say goodbye to everybody today. And we say
Bye.
goodbye with a big smile. Big smile?
Bye.
Punch the air? Yeah. Okay. Nice to see you.
Bye.
Hello friends, this is Chandrakant from Akulmach and welcome to Multiverse. Today topic of discussion is about our future. So is the future already written? Do we have a possibility of changing our future? As people say, hey, future is something which nobody has seen and it is what you make of it. But this is exactly what we want to talk about. And not in a philosophical way, but with facts and with scientific knowledge that I have. So with this, let me start my discussion and tell you what is the future and has that been written already? That means you don't have control on your future at all. So let's say before we go there, let's start discussing about what is the present. So if we know our present, then it will be a lot easier to understand the future. So our present is basically our view or vision of our past that we see, which is brought in by light. So that means the light brings the information to us, and that becomes our future. In other words, it's an image of past or distant past as we see currently, and that is the future. So that is the present. So this is what the whole definition of present is. That means we are always looking in the past. And why? Because the events which are brought in by light will inform us, which is light has a finite speed. So the information about past will also reach it at a finite pace. So when the light brings the information to us, which is the fastest thing in the universe, then we start knowing the past in the present. So this is how the information of present is. That means from present location, we can always look at the past. Just to throw some examples, if you look at sun, it is the sun as it was 8 minutes back, because the light takes about 8 minutes to reach Earth. So that means we are not looking at the present situation of sun. We are looking at sun as it was 8 minutes back. So this is the just to prove a point, I'm just making this argument where I'm trying to explain. In present, we're always looking at the past, and the past is the information brought in by the light to us, and hence we are able to see the past. So in other words, past is something that we cannot change. The events that have occurred in the past have already happened. There is no way to change those events, and we just see them as they have happened some time back, because the light informs us about those events, and we record them in present. So to explain how future will work for us using the same principle, I want to draw your attention to how light will then start determining the future events which will occur in the future. So let's say if Earth is present at this location, and the observable universe, observable that we can observe at any point in time, is a cone of the space-time that we can see. So this becomes our reality, and this is all we can see, because the light is bringing information at a 45-degree angle to us, and that is the maximum line of sight we have. If there is something which is outside of this 45-degree triangle, the light will not have enough time to reach us. Hence, we do not know if there are objects or things in that part of the universe, even though it, as you can see in this diagram, that the even the next door neighbor we are not able to see, because the light has not reached us yet from these points. So we always look in the past in a triangular fashion, and that we call as an observable universe. Whatever events are occurring in that triangle is our present and past, and that is what we call reality. Without even knowing that there is next door, there is another object which exists next to us on the same timeline as present, because universe is a very vast object, and it started expanding and things are moving. So hypothetically, if we say that if on the present timeline there are multiple objects, but we cannot see them in present, we probably will see them in our future as our past. As I explained to you, that light has not got enough time to reach us. We will probably be able to see these objects which are nearby when Earth moves ahead in time, and then light will reach us in our future, and we see their present as our past. So this is how the universe functions. This is how the future will be also known to us. That means whatever we are seeing is always events which have already occurred. Now let us understand. Let us increase the complexity of this diagram, and let's add another planet, which is out of our vision. We have no knowledge that this planet exists, and it has the same timeline, but we don't know whether this planet exists. It's very, very far off from our current location, but it is at the same timeline. That means it is at the present level. And this planet has the same scenario where they have their own observable universe, which they can see, but they cannot see Earth. They are seeing the events which have occurred in the part of the universe which they can see, which the information has been brought to them by light. Now, as you can see in this diagram, that at some point in the past, the two triangles interject, each other. So which actually means that the 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 past, distant past for Earth as well as for planet 1 is probably the same thing. That means the light from these part of the distant past has reached both Earth and planet. That means planet 1 and Earth has a common history in the distant part. But the immediate past is not known. They have a distinct immediate past because light from this area of universe does not reach Earth. Similarly, light from this area of universe does not reach planet 1. So at some point in time, this light will reach Earth, but we will always see planet 1 as it existed in our past, not at the present level. So this is the scenario if we talk about two different areas in the universe and how time is, and the information that we see brought in by light is playing or defining how we will see present and past. Now let's complicate the matter a little bit further and let's imagine an object which is existing in our future. That means an object which is ahead of us in the timeline, which is planet 2. So the planet 2 is moving faster and it has reached to a part of universe which interject both timelines of Earth as well as planet 1. That means from planet 2, if there are human beings or some intelligent being which are able to see in their present, they are seeing the past, and in their past they see both planet Earth and planet 1 and the events which have happened in this part of the universe. So you see their observable universe is much larger than the Earth and the planet because they have obviously spent more time in the universe. They have got time to travel further ahead. And now this is where the problem starts. See, whatever our present is the past of planet 2. That means the timelines of planet 2 are interjected with Earth as well as with planet 1. So whatever events are now occurring in our present is for planet 2 has already happened. So the whole point is that our events which are happening have already occurred on planet 2. They are seen as their past. And as you know, friends, that universe follow the law of conservation of information. That means if there is one event, there cannot be two different type of event. The event information will remain the same from whichever part of universe you see them. So how it is possible that for planet Earth, the present is somebody else's past, and for their point of view, the events which are occurring now on Earth or on planet 1 or any of this part of universe has already happened, and they see this as a past. Let's complicate the matter even further. Let's imagine a hypothetical planet which is in a distant future, where a planet which has got time to travel further, they spend more time. And as you can see, the planet 3, as far as we are concerned, exists in our distant future. And all the events which have occurred in distant future, as well as near future, as well as past or distant past, are all part of history of planet 3. So if that is the reality, that means whatever events will now happen for us have already happened, and those events are being shown as past for planet 3. So now we are bringing the complexity to even higher level. That means the planet 3 and planet 2 have a common history, and for them we are a past. We are in past. That means whatever events which will now happen from our present to future for planet 2 and planet 3 have already happened. That means we just have to simply live those moments. They're already happened. They've already written. And this is what I wanted to bring to you today in terms of opening the subject a little bit more, where as we say that there is no distinction between past, present, and future. All events are already predetermined, and we just have to go and live those moments. That means we don't have a free will. As we say that there is a free will, but there is actually no free will, where the events have already happened. We just have to live it and think that this is our past. But for some other beings, some other civilization, they may be seeing us as their past. That means all the events which will occur in our future, for them, they have already happened, they have recorded it. And as the law of the universe says that the event cannot have two outcomes. That means whatever event will happen for planet 2 and planet 3 are the same events which we will experience in our future, but those are the same moments which are recorded, and they cannot have, these events cannot have two different outcomes. That means we cannot change our future because it's already written somebody else's somebody else's past. So I know, friends, this is a little bit mind-boggling and thought-provoking subject, but I wanted to bring this to you, maybe to initiate a discussion. So I will be more interested in knowing your comments, and if you have any questions or any suggestions, we will take that up in the next episode of Multiverse. Until then, bye-bye.
Hello friends, this is Akulmach Live and I am Chandrakant. Last week we had a very important guest on our show, Mr. Mike Bradley, and he told us about 5 C's of doing business. Today he is also joining us back again on the series of programs that we are doing with Mike, which is how to have a pragmatic approach towards partnership. Especially now the subject is very relevant. So folks, don't go anywhere. I will be taking a short break and will join back along with my guest in a moment. Welcome back, friends, and I'm very pleased to invite our guest today, Mr. Mike Bradley, who joins us from UK, and we will continue our discussion from last week, which was around pragmatic approach towards partnership. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chandra. Good to speak to you again. And how are you surviving the monsoon rains?
Well, it is fine now. It was pretty bad last week, but it has mellowed down a bit. I think business as usual now. Although clouds are there, it's raining continuously, but it's not so hard.
Oh, that's good news. That's always better. Better than the other option.
Well, we discussed the 5 C's last week, and today our viewers would like to know 4 P's of a pragmatic approach. So we are waiting to hear from you. What are the pillars of having the best partnership approach when we go out and do business?
Okay. So last week we talked about the 5 C's for how you identify the correct partners to work with, be they joint ventures, resellers, agents, etc. We said it had to be complementary, cultural fit, communication had to be right, contacts are right, clients are right, and the 6th in brackets C was charm. It's always good to sort of build on the relationship side of working together. So this week I thought what would be better is, having identified those partners, we then have to work with them in a practical way that is effective. And I believe to do that efficiently, you need to have a structured approach to how you present and propose your solutions, because otherwise everything that you do, you'll be reinventing the wheel, which is inefficient and ultimately becomes ineffective. because what you also have to do is you have to go through the process either as a vendor, you have to actually put the pitch together and present the pitch for the client, or you have to enable them to put their label on it, their branding, and send that out to their customer. But it needs to have your message and your solution properly identified. Because whether we like it or not, when partners have got a lot of products to sell, they are not going to be able to present your product in the way that you can present it. So it's important you give them the tools and the information in a way that they can actually do that for you, and eventually become, through a trainer approach, they can do it themselves. So it's very much a stepped process, I think. The 4 Ps then are, first one, pedigree. So it's very important that we start with having a start in any presentation or proposal saying why we are good at what we do. What's our track record? How have we come to be where we are? A bit of background, why you can trust us as a vendor. So the pedigree is very important, the experience and the credibility that puts the vendor in a good, strong position to supply the customer. The second one is portfolio. So in other words, what is your product? Why is it important? And how is it going to help and benefit the client? So how does it help and benefit the partner, and also onwards to the end user who's going to be signing up with the vendor? So portfolio, of course, is very important. Third P is plan of action. And here I think it's very important that you have two crucial elements. Particularly within SaaS products, but in fact for any product, the use, tell, sell, tell, use approach, which basically means if you're trying to sell to an end user a vendor product, that end user, if they've got any common sense, is going to say, well, do you use the product yourself? And if the answer to that question is no, then it doesn't actually reinforce much confidence that actually, well, this is the product I need to buy then. So the first thing you must do in that plan of action is make sure that you and your partners are using your own product, because otherwise it lacks credibility. But once you're using it, of course, your client is going to, or then your salespeople, your partner, is going to be able to tell people about it because they've got first-hand experience and knowledge of it. So when somebody is telling someone that this is how we used it, this is what we gained from it, this is the benefits, this is how we get our return on it, then I think you've got a very credible story. So there's the use, the tell, and of course, when they've understood how beneficial it is, then they're going to say to you, how much does it cost me to buy it? And you sell the product. Now, if you've got an online service model, the next point is they bought the product. Now you've got to tell them how to optimize and use the product, because that will in turn reduce the amount of churn and ensure the maximum retention and return to the end user. So use, tell, sell, tell, use is a vital part of the plan of action. The other part of the plan of action is, of course, the 4 Ps, the traditional 4 Ps of marketing. What is the product for this particular solution for this client? How is it going to be put into how is it going to be placed into their environments? What is the pricing? And how are they going to internally promote the use of it across their user base, across their partner? So the 4 Ps within the context of partnership is very important. And then finally, so we've got pedigree, we've got portfolio, we've got plan of action, which is tailored to the prospect. And finally, we've got provisioning. Because once we've got the order, we then have to ensure that all the other I's are dotted and T's are crossed. What's the service level agreement? What's the customer support arrangement? What's the provisioning mechanism? How's the rollout due to happen? what's the operational play for invoicing and payment. All of those elements need to be in the pitch and the proposal, whether it be to the partner or to their end user. Without all of those elements in place, there's going to come a point where either a deal is not going to be able to be closed, or the deal is going to be closed and not going to be able to be delivered, or worst of all, there's going to be gross disappointment in the partner and the end user because it isn't going to work properly. So those are the 4 Ps.
Excellent explanation, Mike. I think these are very, very vital for any business. I think you put it very nicely. But I also feel that people needs to do little bit training around this, because many people, even though they may know about it, they might have studied in their school, but they don't know how to implement in real life scenario. So I think there is a need for some sort of training provided to entrepreneurs today. Do you have a suggestion for how people can get trained on these 4 Ps?
Well, yes, I do. In fact, I put together a program along the lines of this several years ago for the Growth Accelerator program that the UK government had for how to help companies grow. So I have the material ready and can very easily put together an online training session, which would be charged at a per head basis, or could be done on an exclusive company basis. And we would go into more detail around these areas and come up with actions and actual activities that will enable the attendee to go away with a sensible plan of action to move forward and optimize their partnering. So yes, thank you for that question. And of course, I would be remiss for saying, we can make that available on the Scale Up Arena learning and training page so that people can actually optimize this, sign up for it, and then optimize their joint venturing and partnering activities.
Actually, in terms of training, there are a lot of traction going on right now, because what used to work 2 years back is not working anymore. So people might have got experience of 20 years or 30 years of networking, but those networks cannot be leveraged at this point in time. So that is why Skillshare and even the LinkedIn training is putting a lot of efforts in building up a portfolio of different training. And that is why I asked, because I think when we talk about these 4 Ps, there are a lot of these training material, but then it is coming from pre-recorded content. So how?
Yeah, very important to have an interactive session.
Okay, so you can provide the interactive session on one-on-one basis, on need basis. How does it work in your case?
I would provide, what I think would be best is to provide a free 1-hour briefing session, which would outline the whole process, give a few hints and tips, go through these 5 Cs and 4 Ps and all the rest of it, 4 pillars. But then I would suggest, if you want to optimize it for your company, that you'd need to take the fuller, specific course that could be provided online. But I'm quite prepared to say that we will do a 1-hour session for your Akulmach viewers. If they want to do that, they can actually come back to yourselves and say, we'd like to take part in the, what do we call it? The pragmatic approach to partnering seminar, webinar.
Excellent. We will try and see if people are interested. I think this is a very important subject, because many people don't know the reality. They don't know how to, sometimes you have a flair of acquiring customers, but you don't have a flair of retaining it. So I think it should be provided to the new generation entrepreneurs who are now entering the fray. And that is why such trainings are very, very important, Mike.
Yep, I agree. I can, what I can do is provide you with a link with the overview of the course that you could use yourself and push it out as a webinar, a free of charge webinar. But then there'll be a more detailed half day, which would be chargeable.
Excellent, Mike. I think thank you so much for coming over and enlightening our viewers about these hidden aspects of doing business. It's very, very important. And viewers, I think you have any question, any suggestion, you can directly reach out to Mike, or you can reach out to us, and we will make the connection happen. The email will be mentioned at the end of the video, also in the description down below. Mike, coming over and joining us, talking to our viewers today.
No problem. Been a pleasure. That was part 2. And of course, I've got part 3 ready for next week.
We'll be coming with part 3 next week. So viewers, stick around. Next Thursday, we'll be back with Mike.
Superb. Thank you very much, Chandra. Great to chat to you.
Hello friends, welcome to Akulmach Live. I'm Kanchan Verma, and in this episode we have a special guest. He is an Indian bureaucrat who has a deep interest in Mahatma Gandhi's philosophies and ideologies. As you know, Mahatma Gandhi is world's greatest political and spiritual leader. We'll be discussing about his principles, his ideologies, and how these ideologies and principles are relevant in today's modern time. So stick around to this episode till the end. It is very interesting episode for you. Hello friends, welcome again. And today we have a very distinguished guest with us. He is Mr. Mukul Kumar, who is a distinguished and very refined bureaucrat. He is also a very popular novelist and poet. And he's been honored with the National Award for his outstanding service. He's also been awarded Bharat Nirman Award for Literacy in Excellence. So without wasting any further moment, I would like to welcome him. Welcome to our show, Mukulji. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I am fine. And very good evening to my viewers. Very good morning to my viewers also.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you, and I know that you are a very good student of Gandhian philosophy and ideology. So you see, what you really mean with Gandhi, and how this Gandhism is to you. What do you mean really about Gandhi as a person or as an ideology?
Well, I won't claim that I'm some scholar on Gandhian philosophy. It's only that I have been a student of history, and that way I have been. I have had the opportunity to study Indian freedom struggle, and when you talk of Indian freedom struggle, I think Gandhi emerges as the most crucial figure. Coming to Gandhi's ideology or philosophy, whatever you can say. Like Indian freedom struggle itself reflects what Gandhi is. But I would like to break his ideology or philosophy into 4 major segments, like social, cultural, political, and economic. And if you really study Indian freedom struggle with a lot of care, you will realize that Indian freedom struggle is not a very, not something like monolithic. It is a very broad-based struggle. And it encompasses the social, cultural, political, and economic aspects, even environmental, aspect. And all such issues are still relevant today, with which humanity is grappling. Let me explain to you, like coming to the social aspect. Like Gandhi's struggle started with from South Africa. All of us know that, and it started with his fight against racial discrimination in South Africa. He formed the National, Indian Congress, and his being thrown out of the compartment, first-class compartment, went on to create history, And his struggle started with fighting against racial discrimination. National Indian Congress he formed in South Africa, and that fight against irrationality, against any sort of discrimination, got carried throughout Gandhian, struggle. If we place him in the context of India, then he fought against untouchability. He was against the irrational discrimination on the basis of caste. Gandhi vouched for communal harmony. All of us know, and we are still grappling with this issue, Hindu-Muslim, ideology, and that his passion for communal harmony went on to, give rise to a movement like cooperation movement. Then coming to the gender issues, with which India, we are, this issue is still relevant, that we are fighting for the rights of women. We are trying to bring about equality, between man and man, the man and woman. And Gandhian, struggle right from the beginning. If you talk, Gandhi wanted to co-opt women also, without any discrimination. And I'm reminded of a quote by Gandhi that he says that the day woman would be able to, walk alone at night, that would be the real independence. And see, I live in Delhi. I know the state government is still striving, taking all such measures to ensure that the women are able to move out at night safely. Gandhi is still relevant even in the social sphere today. Coming to the economic aspect, you say economy. What? Let me tell you, the best economic model which has emerged in the current times is regulated capitalism based upon the concept of welfare state, where we talk about inclusive development, taking care of the last man in the queue. And if you really study Gandhian freedom struggle very carefully, while he was fighting for the political freedom of the country, he was fighting for the economic freedom, of the people at large also. His agitation against, the British Empire, his movements like Champaran, his movements like Kheda, his movements like Swadeshi. Swadeshi, you have to understand, place in the very large context. Swadeshi, when he saw that the British goods are flooding Indian market, supplying the cheap material, the very cheap material to the British Empire, and importing the goods, is driving many people at large unemployed totally. Artisans, our small scale industry, they were lying in ruins. Same with the farmers. Then Gandhi, that was the basic driving motive, behind launching the Swadeshi movement. And that is what we are still grappling with, the major issue of unemployment. Gandhi was for the production for the masses. He wanted that production should be able to cater to the needs of the people, not mass production for the sake of mass production, mechanization for the sake of mechanization. That way, Gandhi is still relevant, today. Coming to the cultural context, Gandhi always talked about that you have to, now I'm reminded of his Hindu Swaraj, where he says that he talks of the concept of self-rule. Self-rule is what? He explained self-rule. It is ruling over the self. That implies control over the self, awakening of the soul force, awakening moral enhancement. And he realized that in the Hindu Swaraj, he talks that we have to ensure that when we get the freedom, we are not going to create an English India. He put before the people the flaws in the Western civilization, which is completely lopsided based upon the material pursuits of the material ambitions. He was equally concerned with the spiritual development of the individual, awakening of the moral force. He knew that India, he wanted to tap upon the indigenous concept, indigenous resources of the country, and he wanted to strike a balance between the material aspiration and the spiritual development of the individual. That is how Gandhi, and when we talk about political, all of us know he wanted to give the freedom, but his concept of freedom is very broad-based. You have to understand it in totality.
Well, I always appreciate Gandhi ideology because he is one of the greatest leader, political and spiritual leader of the world. And what happens that I have read, and one of the aspect of his ideology is non-violence, which I really appreciate. And at one point of time, he said that on this earth. Everything is available, is given by the Mother Earth. Whatever is a human require, but it is not for the greed. So I think that way I think it makes Gandhi different from any other leader, political or spiritual leader. So I would like to ask you now, what makes Gandhi the great Mahatma Gandhi?
You raised a very pertinent subject, like Mother Earth can provide for everybody's need but not for everybody's greed. And you see, this is the most burning issue in the world we are living in. We are talking about sustainable development. We are utilizing the resources of the earth much in advance. What we should utilize, what we should be utilizing in 1 year, we are utilizing in much lesser time. And that is why this concept of overshoot day, Earth Overshoot Day, has come into limelight. Sustainable development means not putting the unnecessary pressure upon the natural resources, utilizing it in a very judicious manner, and try to gradually resolve the conflict between environment and development. And Gandhi's this quote that we can provide, Mother Earth can provide for everybody's need, but not for everybody's greed, I think it speaks volume. And this is that is why I'm telling Gandhi is equally relevant today. Gandhi's concept of non-violence, be it truth, be it non-violence, be it environment, be it economy, I'm absolutely floored by this man, what kind of visionary he was. Coming to your basic question of what makes Gandhi Mahatma Gandhi, as a student of history, and especially I have had a passion for, Gandhi as a subject itself. Gandhi is a discipline in himself. He remains the most enigmatic, most towering personality of the human history, according to me, if you ask. What makes Gandhi Mahatma Gandhi is his basic ingredients, of course, were there in him, but assimilative genius of Gandhi. Gandhi took all good things from many people around him. Like I will illustrate it with the example, the thinkers who have really inspired Gandhi and shaped his personality. I will start with the name of Henry Vivid Thoreau. He was an American thinker, and Gandhi imported from him the concept of civil disobedience. Thoreau wrote Duty of Civil Disobedience, and Gandhi started his struggle with civil disobedience in South Africa. You see the man, and then coming to Tolstoy. From Tolstoy, he took the concept of bread labor. Bread labor, where he treats the hand labor with the hand, with lot of dignity, and he says that everybody has to undergo physical labor in order to earn the bread. And when he created the ashram, when he set up the ashrams across the country, he ensured that each and every resident of the ashram is able to contribute in one way or the another to the upkeep of the ashram, to the maintenance of the ashram. So he was equally keen on the physical labor also, which he took from Tolstoy. Second thing which he took from Tolstoy was that Tolstoy famous book is there, that the kingdom of God is within you, and where he says love is the law of life. And Gandhi loved humanity at large. Every action of Gandhi reflects how he loved humanity. When he says his service to man is service to God, his love for humanity becomes palpably obvious. Then the man who most influenced Gandhi was John Ruskin. His book Unto the Last, which he read during his journey from Durban to Johannesburg, he read that book, and from there he took the concept of social trusteeship, where he talks that I am not against an individual earning the wealth, amassing the wealth, provided he puts it to the use of the welfare of the people at large. And that is the concept of trusteeship. The money you earn, you are just trustee on the behalf of the people, and you are putting that money to the use of the people so that everybody's need is met. The best of communism he took. While he was not a proponent of communism, he took the crux of the communism, the most humane aspect of the communism, and put it to, and he was equally concerned with the individual aspiration. So he gave he encouraged individuals earning of wealth also pursuit of the material aspiration. So that is regulated capitalism based upon the concept of welfare state, and this is the best model of a state which the modern world has adopted. Communism has crumbled. Unbridled capitalism has crumbled. How it crumbled in 1929, Great Depression of America, you saw that unbridled, the capitalism failed. So he was able to strike a perfect balance between capitalism and communism, and came out with a perfect model, the best model, which we have experimented with so far. Then another scholar which influenced him no end was Ralph Waldo Emerson. Ralph Waldo Emerson talks of self-reliance, and Gandhi was in the favor of our villages functioning as the self-reliant units. And already we have started talking about smart villages. He showed the darker side of the urbanization, and he knew that the soul of the India lies in villages. He was very well alive to that particular aspect of the Indian social and economic fabric, and that is why he was all for promoting villages as the basic unit of society and the economy. And that is where I think we have missed the bus. And now we are, waking up to that reality, and we are talking about smart villages. And as an individual, I really feel more than a smart, cities, we need smart villages also. So again, we have to strike a balance between the village and the urban setup. Gandhi is like. To me, I think Gandhi, if you study him very carefully, I'm telling you, I think he was a complete leader. He was a complete leader.
Well, you have really mentioned very well when you are taking us to smart cities and self-reliant villages. You also mentioned the way of administration, which Gandhi really visualized at that point of time. And I think he is far ahead of his time when he is talking about these aspects, these ideologies.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Gandhi was like, he was such a humble person that he openly confesses that he was a great man, but he was always eager to take good things from people around him, from the events around him. That is what makes you really great. Assimilative genius.
So actually, as you mentioned that we were talking about how relevant his ideologies or his principles are in today's scenario, because we are really developing very fast, but we are, as you mentioned, we are lagging behind in social front, economic, and sometimes political front also. And you may be remembering that we had a G7 summit. We discussed about the Mother Earth and how to cure it. So all these points are very, very relevant, and I think Mahatma Gandhi had that kind of vision and that kind of country he wants to make, and few of the points is being taken by the current government in the development aspect, in the implementation of some of the aspect of Gandhian philosophy. Now I would like to ask you what Gandhi really means to you as an individual.
Gandhi, for me, remains, a subject of eternal interest. My interest in Gandhi never, and I don't miss any opportunity of knowing more and more about Gandhi. To me, he means a complete individual, a complete person. And if you ask me that, have you seen God? God, when we talk about God, we associate God with, with some kind of miracle or some kind of supernatural force. But Gandhi, as a human being, I feel he was a divine human being, in the sense that his only pursuit in life was humanism and goodness. He goes to the extent of saying, I don't want any conflict between economics and ethics. He wanted to create a political system based upon individual, where you have each and every action of yours should have the the sight on the last man in the queue. He talks. You see the in the and entire our, if you see the human history, if you observe the human history, it has been the development of or growth of reason. Reason in Gandhi was always there. He put it to practice. That is another hallmark of Gandhi. When he says that an ounce of practice is worth 1,000 words, he first practiced and then he led by example. Gandhi, what more can I say? I treat him to be a complete individual, the most towering personality, and really, I would call him a godly man who was born in the. And Albert Einstein, I'm reminded of Albert Einstein. The coming generations will hardly believe that there ever walked upon earth a man like Mahatma Gandhi. So you can say just Albert Einstein's statement speaks volumes about Gandhi. What more I can say?
Yes, well, actually, it is a very, very crucial topic and very, very crucial subject to be discussed and to be propagated. When we are talking about Gandhi, though we know so much, we study about Gandhi so much in the school, but I think on a very lower level, maybe primary, we should get books on his principles like non-violence, how to live, how to care about the people, like Peer Parai Jane Re. That is one of the very strongest quotation which is being given by Mahatma Gandhi. Right?
Yeah, Vaishnav Jante, that, if you understand the meaning, first stanza, I will just tell you the crux of the first stanza. It is like a human being should, appreciate the pain of others as if it is his or her own pain. And you should serve the person without any sense of pride. You have to understand, while service is one thing, but serving without any sense of pride that, okay, I am doing something. That was Gandhi. Complete self-effacement. That was Gandhi. Then again, I think I'm reminded of, Gandhi's views on politics, where he says, when I talk about self-rule, it is not self-rule as if getting freedom from the British rule. It is like everybody is able to rule over oneself, and every individual has an equal say in the administration, in the politics. That is too idealistic, I know, to be followed. But he said, his own statement I am putting you, that I am an anarchist and I know and I will pursue ordered anarchy. The word phrases he uses is ordered anarchy, where each and every individual is able to have a say in the administration and he is ruling upon himself. That was Gandhi. You have to go a bit deeper to understand the person Gandhi was. Sometimes, of course, he was too idealistic, he was too good to be put into any model. Gandhi was a transcendental figure. He defies any economic model. He defies any political model. And if you really want to create any model based upon Gandhian philosophy, it has to be completely idealistic, where every individual has to be good at heart. That is why he says the good of the individual is always contained in the good of the all.
Well, as usual, it is so wonderful to really talk to you today and understand more about Gandhi and Gandhi's philosophy. So we'll be meeting again, maybe in next show, we'll be discussing more topic-wise, elaborate topics, so that our viewers understand how important is the principle and the ideology, and which are very, very relevant in today's time also. So once again, thanks very much.
Before concluding, I think this discourse would be incomplete without talking about Satyagraha Gandhi. I was talking about assimilative genius and hunger in Gandhi to import good things from the people around him. I think I would be missing the name of Socrates, the famous Greek philosopher, who was, whose trial is very famous, where he was, he defended himself in a most convincing manner, even in the face of death sentence. Still, he never yielded. He never yielded truth. Gandhi's Satyagraha is that. Insistence upon truth, fighting for it without any fear. That was Gandhi. And he put it to the practice, put it to practice in Indian, freedom struggle. You have to understand the second aspect of Satyagraha, where he says, the fighting for truth is one thing, but Satyagraha is also about reforming the adversary. You are fighting the sinner, but you are fighting the sin, not the sinner. That was Gandhi. I think each Gandhian philosophy comes into play in each and every strategy also of Gandhi, of Mahatma Gandhi. Whatever he said, he really practiced. And he led by example. He showed to the world, even in a political context, you can put your entire economic, social, and cultural views or philosophy into practice. Indian freedom struggle remains the most broad-based struggle to have been ever launched anywhere, I must say. And that is why Martin Luther King Jr., Nelson Mandela, all such big leaders whom we really almost emulate and worship, they have been the ardent admirers and followers of Mahatma.
Yeah, really, and you have mentioned all very crucial and very thought-provoking issues in today's episode. So we'll be meeting again the next time and discuss more elaborately, taking as any interesting topic. And I think that will be very, very interesting for our viewers to study and view the views and understand what really Gandhi means to us today. And I just want to say one thing in the end is that he's very, very relevant in fact, in today's modern era also. So take care. Bye-bye.
Anybody's understanding of Gandhi can never be conclusive.
He's right. So see you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Friends, welcome to Akulmach Live. And as you know that the Indian origin or Indians are becoming the CEOs of the world global multinationals. And one particular news was more disturbing than the previous one. Well, I feel very happy about Indians actually acquiring the position of power. But I think there was another news coming from another Indian origin CEO of better.com who actually laid off hundreds of people over a Zoom call. So this is a very big global talking subject. To discuss this, to analyze this further, I am joined by a very eminent speaker from Singapore and the CEO of Career Zoom, Ms. Farida Charania. So let's welcome her.
Hi CK and hello viewers. I hope everyone is doing very well and things kind of start looking better next year. We are almost towards the fag end of 2021. Wow, where does this year go?
Well, Farida, I think the year just went by and there was a big dip in everybody's balance sheet. And there was a time to do a calibration when it comes to business. But I think more important that the way it was done by better.com, the CEO invited certain selected people. If I remember correctly, there were 900 people on a Zoom call where all these 900 people were fired. So, and the year is not over yet, and 2022 has not yet started. So I think this kind of news is quite disturbing, especially during the lockdown and corona period. What is your opinion about this?
I have been listening to this, hearing this. So listening because people are discussing, hearing because you hear them on media, reading because people are discussing this online. And it is a big discussion because while, often CEOs of Indian origin who surface as the ones who have done very, very well, they are leading world's, largest companies. And all of us who are Indian origin people, but, a lot of us don't live in India, but we are Indian origin and we feel very proud. But when you feel proud, there are instances which kind of make you take a step back. Now, very recently, a digital mortgage company by the name of better.com, which is a startup, had this huge firing exercise and all over Zoom by the CEO. Now, this is a company which is, the valuation of about 7 billion They have very recently received a 750 million, and they are backed by SoftBank. So they have raised a round which is close to 750 million, and it's a deal to go through a SPAC. So what exactly is kind of happening, and what kind of just led to this? And even if it led to this, was there a better way it could have been done? So I actually saw the video of the CEO Vishal Garg, who said that this is the second time he's doing something like this in his career. The earlier time when he did it, he cried, and he hopes to do better this time. But it was firing 900 people all over a Zoom call, which probably is not the best for optics. You can fire 900 people, but there has to be a better way to deliver the news. It could have been done better. So, while I don't think my opinion matters that much, but since I'm talking, I feel it could have been done in a more empathetic way. It could have been, not such a spectacle. I don't know if there was a reason to do it in such a way, but there are a few things which kind of jump out from this whole interaction. One, there definitely was a better way to do it. It could have been, a lot more engaged. I had a friend recently mentioning, if you can hire people over Zoom, you can also fire them over Zoom. I said, yeah, that is, if you make 900 calls and hire 900 people over Zoom, you should be making 900 calls and firing 900 people, one by one, each of them separately, by giving them a reason as to why you're letting them go. Because it's not about hiring people. You don't hire 900 people at once over one Zoom call. So you can't really fire 900 people at the same time over one Zoom call. But, and this is a company which was actually ranked as LinkedIn's top startups list, and Fortune's best small and medium enterprises workplaces in New York. So it's a little bit shocking. Vishal Garg just happens to be of Indian origin, but if anyone has done this, it wouldn't shock me lesser.
Well, Farida, I think I respect your thoughts and your comments, but let me add my own experience to this. I used to work for a multinational which is among the top 10. I don't want to take the name here, but during the normal times, this is like among the top 10 companies globally, and during the normal times, 10% of the people would leave the company or they'll get fired every month. So, I mean, they had about 200,000 people working globally and 10% people leaving them globally every month. By the time it is 8th month in a year, the entire company has renewed itself. So, there were companies like that during the good times where the firing was the norm and hiring was just filling the gap, So, I don't think it's a very big deal. You can fire people whichever way you want. This time it's a news because it's done on Zoom, probably first time. But I don't see a big problem firing 900 people or even 2,000 people because this has been going on for some time. We keep hearing that TCS has laid off 2,000 people. This has been going on. I think what is the big surprise here?
It is a surprise because, more tthan surprise, there is to every action, there is a what and a how. The what is fine. Laying off 10% of the company staff is not a big deal. It happens many times. And in fact, during this whole pandemic situation, we have seen the likes of Airbnb, the likes of LinkedIn laying off people. And that is fine because, yes, you do understand that, it kind of creates an impact. It's no longer sustainable for the company, or maybe they are not adding value. But how it was done is a question. How it was done is a question of discussion here. That's the premise I'm very uncomfortable with because, as a leader, you are not setting the right example. So you are basically setting an example of everything that's not right. That it's okay to be despotic. It's okay to run your company in a very in a manner where it's really despotic, that you kind of rule. Telling 900 people over a Zoom call, generalizing everything and telling them that some of you have been working only 2 hours and you've been billing for 8 hours. How does that actually add value? You are creating a scare. You are creating a scare even for people to come to you in future. And the people who are already there now, they are rethinking that, okay, loyalty, working hard, everything is fine. But tomorrow, if they want to fire me, they are not going to think too much about it. So it kind of really doesn't go well. There would be people. So if they are firing 900 people, they are probably, hiring another 900 to fill the gaps, because it's 900 people laying off is not a big deal. Hiring 900 people is not a big deal. But how are they going to attract talent in future? Like you just said, that in a large company, in 8 to 10 months, the whole workforce has renewed itself, and it's very common, it happens. But how are they going to actually attract the future talent? How are they going to make sure that they will always have enough manpower to continue their business? And this is a world where everything is very perceptive. We are not in the 90s now, where a graduate was very sought after. There were so many, there were many jobs and less graduates, so a college degree made sense. But today a college degree really doesn't make that much sense. It's not setting you apart from others, because, all of those people who graduated, then they actually made sure that their children graduated. The ones who didn't graduate, their children also would have a degree now. So you have less jobs and more graduates. So how is it setting you apart? And the young people today, they don't want to go and, work for a company where their time is not respected. I think we grew up in a very different time. We basically, went to work and we thought whatever happens with us is fine, because that's how it's supposed to be. But today's generation is not going to do that. The people who are in their, mid-20s, late 20s, early 30s, they are not going to take this lying down. It's kind of, so I'm just trying to, express a point as to, is this a good thing? It's nothing to do with an Indian CEO. That is just coincidental. That's just a byproduct of this whole thing. The person happens to be Indian. But what about the entire culture of the company? What about the value system? What if, some younger aspirational leaders actually think that is the right way? How are we going? How is the world getting so transactional? That is my question.
Well, Farida, I fully agree with you. In fact, I am on the same plane as you are. And let me clarify that when I said that the 10% of the company was was moving on, either getting fired for some reason or just moving on, the work environment in that company was really, really bad, because you have zero trust. There was no trust on people, and they could not simply work together. I mean, the company used to give hefty target that the starting work order should be $1 million minimum. Below that, they are not interested. So you can imagine the $1 million are not flying every day like an aeroplane and landing into your lap. And that was the work order, first work order. So those are the kind of environment that we were exposed to, and definitely nobody lasted for very long, because there was a very high deficit of trust among each other. But I think I again agree with you that when you actually fire on Zoom, and next time when anybody gets a call to join a Zoom call from this CEO, the chances are people will start worrying. Hey, what is going to happen? So I think there you're absolutely bang on, because you're not giving the right message. That if the CEO calls me over Zoom, the chances are 90% probability I'll get fired today. Isn't it, Farida?
I think, okay, I never try to look at things as black and white, especially, when it comes to such heavy decisions as layoffs, but, this is an exception. Because I'm very saddened to see something so sensitive executed without a heart, soul, or empathy. It's precisely an example as to how not to lead. I think, leaders who lead in this way, they really need to do better. Because you don't want to be a leader whose staff actually fears the call, like you said. Because, in earlier times, or even before this incident, if the CEO is inviting you to a Zoom call, uh, as a staff, you are actually very happy because you feel that you are important enough to be in this meeting. But imagine these 900 people who came into this meeting without even kind of expecting anything like this, and they were just let go. So now, yes, you're right. I mean, in future, employees of this company would actually fear. And, if there are people setting such examples in other ways of their behavior, then those companies also have to kind of watch out how they execute things, because this is just a very lame way to execute anything. I don't have a better word, but I think it's not a nice way to do anything, because end of the day, we are all humans. It's okay to let go people. It's fine if the company no longer needs their services, because employees also leave all the time. It is just how this was executed and how it's actually very quickly become a topic of discussion. I think it's been a week and everybody's talking about it.
Well, I wouldn't worry too much about this person being an Indian origin, because every fifth citizen of the world is an Indian today. So they would eventually end up heading some organizations or majority of the organizations globally. So I don't see that as a big issue, but definitely I fully agree with you that such decisions can be done in a different manner. Maybe you can change the work orders basically in terms of hiring, saying that hey, you will only work not on employment but on a contract. Then it becomes a lot easier. So I think the people should think of if they want to have more flexibility in terms of managing manpower. But I think the moot question is what was running in this gentleman's mind? He is such an experienced person. What are his compulsion? Maybe his management, his board was pressing him to show some positive sides in the company. So we need to also discuss about that, Farida.
I think, look, a lot of it is going to be assumptions, because we really don't know. When you actually just Google this particular issue, there are so many things. I mean, the first 50 pages, if you can go that far, is full of this. And there will be, different, probably opinions on this. There are different assumptions on this. But what I understand based on facts, that this CEO is actually fighting multiple lawsuits at the moment about, the entities that he controls of improper, even fraudulent activity at 2 prior business ventures, and of misappropriating few tens of millions of dollars. He's taken a huge bonus last year. So he's probably, a very good businessman, but his perception, the way he operates his business, is not something that is very much right home about. I mean, this is one Indian origin CEO I wouldn't want to take any kind of pride on. But I think it's just it's an example of not just this particular individual. It's an example of how frustrated leaders are today. It's very difficult, because some of them can actually blow the lid. And this has probably happened. Maybe this person is under a lot of pressure from the investors, or, and he probably thinks that if he has to fire 900 people personally one by one, it would be after Christmas. He wants to have a good Christmas. You don't know. You really don't know, because we can only talk about it in jest. This actually gives me an analogy that if you forget password on your email, do you do forgot password, or you start banging all the keys on the keyboard thinking that something will click? So maybe he just did forgot password, and he just kind of did, okay, all of you are going off today, and I'm taking the day off after this. So maybe he just decided it was better. This was not a soft blow, it's a hard blow, but it happens at once, and then the thing is done. It sets an example for others who are taking it easy. There are many ways to look at it. I really don't have any advice for anyone, but when we are discussing this, I just have opinion, which I'm not sure if anybody cares, but if our viewers are watching, I would just like to say one thing, that how and what is very important. What you do is fine, but how you do it is a lot more important, and how you execute stuff is a lot more important.
Well, Farida, I think you made all the points which are very, very relevant for everyone, all professionals. So thank you for joining our show today and expressing your opinion about this incident in our business life. Viewers, if you have any questions, you can shoot it out or you can write it to us, and we will make that answered by Farida in our future shows. But Farida, thank you very much for joining. And any last words you would have for our viewers?
I think we are approaching end of 2021, and we all hope that 2022 would be better. There are a few things which I would like to say to people who are watching, that things will get better. The pandemic is not going to go away as quickly as we would like it to, but what will happen is that because of vaccines, lives will be saved a lot more. So we will not see the bloodbath that we have seen in the last 2 years, hopefully, because of advances in medical science. It will be treated better, so it might become like a seasonal flu. And thirdly, it's an acquired immunity. Either people who have got infected and recovered, they already have an antibody structure in their body, or people who have got vaccinated, they have created the antibody. So it's like, you train yourself on a bike on the road, you cycle on the road and you train yourself. So that's, getting infected and recovering. Or you train yourself on a stationary bike, in a stationary place in your gym or your home, but you're still building the, immunity for that matter by the vaccines. So you are still training your muscles, you are still building immunity. So I would say that, yes, we should look forward to better times, and my best wishes to all our viewers. Have a very, very good rest of the year, whatever is left, and we'll see you in the next year, in the new year. So happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you, Farida, and thank you very much. Well, the entire internet is filled with training on empathy, people friendliness, all those kind of things, but then people don't learn. I think this incident proves it. Friends, if you have any comments, you write in, send in your comments, or send us email with your suggestions. The email will be given in the end of the video, and we will reply to you as much as possible. But for now, let me say goodbye, and I will catch you in the next one. Hello friends, welcome to Akulmach Live, and I am Chandrakant. Today we have a very deep subject to discuss. It's about the mental health, especially among the youth. And to have this discussion, I'll be joined by a very senior, very eminent personality. But before we start our discussion, I have to tell you that we are live, and whichever corner of the world you're watching our program, you can actually use the chat function in your social media, in your social media, whichever social media through which you are watching. We will get your question displayed on the screen right there, right now. and we will take your name and respond to your question. So the guest today is Mr. Kevin Kotum. He is the best-selling author. He is the CEO of Go Nomading PT Limited, and he's joining us from Singapore. So without further ado, let's welcome him.
Hello, Chandra. It's really great to be here with you on this very special day in India.
Absolutely, Kevin. In fact, we had a big celebration, and I will tell you more about it after our show. But the topic for discussion for today is the mental health, especially among the youth. And because we are just coming out of the lockdown situation, or some of us are still in lockdown, there are some restrictions. What is the impact of that? So there are so many questions. It's a very vast subject. So what we should do to improve our mental health, reduce anxiety, things like that, feeling of procrastination and stuff like that. These are all related to mental health. So over to you, Kevin.
Thank you very much, Chandra. It's really great to have a chat on this particular subject. It is, as you say, a very large subject matter, and I have to say that I've over this COVID period, I think we've all been affected by something in our mental health and their well-being. I think we would be remiss to not say that we haven't been, and to put up a very stern front and say, no, I haven't been affected. I want to say that it's affected me. I've had a lot of ups and downs, and I've had a lot of periods of where I've just been not necessarily depressed, but just not sure where I'm going or unhappy, and looking at where is the future. And I don't think that that's anything different from a variety of people. But what we're hearing today, whether it be in Singapore, whether it be in Sweden, whether it be in Canada, whether it be in South Africa, or wherever it might be, there's a big focus on the youth today as to how are they dealing with all of this. And I think that there's a variety of aspects which are coming up, and that is, one, that they don't see a future, a very good future. When you talk about the climate change and you talk about all of these biodiversity and challenges in work, where will we get work? These are all pieces that are plaguing on the youth of today. And some are doing very well, and some, of course, are not doing very well. But I think that we need to address what this means. For example, in Sweden, a friend of mine just recently told me that a lot of youth, there's an increase in suicides. In Singapore, which doesn't talk about these types of things because it's kind of shameful to do so, but I think that it's coming out that the youth are also committing more suicide. They're going through downwards in a variety of their performances in education and also in school. And also there's a variety of just thoughts about, where am I going? I don't think anyone has one complete answer to this. And I think that's the thing, that we need to open it up. It needs to be an open discussion. And we need to look at not just where we are, but the expansiveness of what is society, what are our cultures. So often our cultures create this challenge as well, because we have some strictness of the way we are to act and the way we are to be. And these are juxtaposition, and there's a paradox between that and sometimes where is the world going when we see it. I mean, we see the world, there's a challenge, not only from the climate change, biodiversity, new ways of working, all sorts of things, but we need to find little micro steps to help us through this mental state. So there's a book which I think is actually very interesting, and it's called Thrive, My Time to Thrive. And I think it's really helpful not only for youth, but I think it's also very helpful for everyone. And it really talks about, we've got to get a grip on ourselves and the way we work, the way we act, the way we look at our lives in general, the way we do socialization, the way we do all of these things. And so it's by Arianna Huffington. And I have just started to read it, and I think it's really valuable. There's a lot of great research. At the same time, it's about creating micro steps to help us out of this mental dilemma that we might be having around any sort of subject in our lives. So this is where I call we need to go nomadic. We need to go into deep curiosity into our who we are and find out what is our deeper purpose and what does that mean. And I think that that is a really one place to start. I think there's another place to start is, if we think about it, is our technology that we're using. We're overusing and over abusing the technology. Our phones are constantly with us. See, my phone is right next to me. And that's not probably where it should be, especially when we go to sleep. So let us talk about some of the ways that we can help ourselves. So one of the things that they talk about, and which is extremely important, is sleep. Chandra, you know that you need to have sleep. The sleep is the re-energizer of us. It's not taking all the medications. It's not taking all the extra caffeine. It's the natural application of sleep, which is so vital for our mental health, our performances, therefore, which plays out from that. But getting 7 to 8 hours, or if you cannot do that, then to take naps during the day, some sort of cat naps. I remember my mother would always take cat naps. She was amazing. She would sit down, have a snooze, and drop off, and then she'd be back and she'd be up and running. And it was like this automatic thing for her. And then also she trained herself as well. Right after dinner, she would just put her head down and she would fall asleep and she would be up and she'd be able to start working away again. But sleep is extremely important as an energizer. It also revitalizes your systems inside, and it helps you in your performance ultimately, because now your head, your brain is thinking better. You know, this whole point, of us working like late hours, and COVID has had these no boundaries and people working very long hours, and doesn't help us. This badge of honor, I worked 14 hours today and I'm going to do it every day. This is not a badge of honor anymore. It was in one time perhaps, but today I've never thought of it as being a badge of honor. I just think it's been ridiculous because of what it does to you. And what do organizations do? They talk about performance indicators, performance of the individuals. They do a performance review. Well, if you don't sleep, your performance is down. Your cognitive thinking is down. It is not as peaked as it could be. So the other thing is also one of the other pieces about helping this sort of mental awareness is also understanding yourself, understanding what is putting these challenges into my body. What is affecting me? Is it somebody on the outside? Is it a person what's saying something? Is it I'm reading too much technology? Am I listening to the news too much? What is it? I don't know about you, Chandra, but I at times get over abundance of not only emails, but so much into looking at the different social platforms that I get crazy because it's too much. And I have to have a separation of the noise. So let me talk about the noise. The noise that happens can help, understanding a noise can help our mental health. We need to reduce the noise. Noise comes from inside of our head and outside of our head. It comes from within our body and it comes out. And so this noise comes in different factors. It comes in noises like, people talking, sound, reading newspapers, too much social media, all sorts of things are noise. At the beginning of this year, I realized that I was going into this downfall, downwards. And I realized, okay, I heard this voice inside of me that said, you have to reduce the noise. And so that's what I did. I reduced the noise for a month as I took myself off of social media and only would allow myself X amount of time on each platform per day. That's it. And even though there was like, the addiction, I've got to do it. But no, you need to get rid of that. addiction. So that's noise for you. And then the noise in your head, start walking, start doing exercise in nature, listening to the noise which is in nature, which is pure, which is part of you. These are old, different nomadic ways or traditional ways that we would live. And those help us to re-energize. You know, we think that we have gone to the place in our socialization, in our intellectualization of life, that we know everything. But what is that doing to us a lot of the time is that maybe we don't know what is actually nature within us. So reducing the noise, external and internally, is extremely important. Take a break. Take a social media break. Cut it up. The other thing is that don't have all of it in your bedroom when you're sleeping, because you will be enticed to go onto it. You'll be enticed, and then you stop sleeping as well. Leave your phone outside your room. I know people say, no, I gotta have my way. No, put it outside of your room, and don't let it be the first thing you check. When you wake up in the morning, take a moment for yourself to reflect, to be wide instead of narrow, and then start to look at the day. But you need to have these little micro steps of ways that you can help your mental health. But I would say it's a holistic health, because you're helping your spirit, you're helping your socialization, your emotions, your physical. All of these things come together. The problem is we talk about mental health, and it's the dictator. But our body can shift that mental health. I don't know about you, Chandra, but for me, because I'm extremely kinesthetic and physical, is that when I start to get all sort of mushed up in my head, or too many things are starting to go around in my head, I need to release that. And one of the ways that I release is physicality, is that I go walking, or I go into nature, or I go swimming, or I do dance, or whatever I do, but it releases everything. It's also very creative. When I was doing choreography, for example, one thing that would help me is I would get stuck. And this also affects your mental health, is getting stuck into a rut, or stuck on an idea, or a contemplation of what is this project? I don't know the next step in this project. I don't know what this creative aspect, what do I need to add to the creativity of this for it to be successful or to be beautiful, whatever it may be. And I used to say, okay, go swimming. So I would go swimming, and I had one task. I can't get out of the pool until I've solved the question. So I would keep swimming and swimming and swimming until I found the answer. And the answer would come to me. I didn't sort of go on and on and on about the answer. I would just let the swimming allow me to find the answer, because it loosened everything up. So many people find their own ways of loosening their mind, loosening their body, whatever it might be. But it is a holisticness of this. So for youth, we need to be able to help them to start moving and expanding their thinking. Now, you remember we've talked about the nomadic culture and the nomadic mindset. One of the greatest, I believe, quotes that I found in all of my research was this in Mongolia, is a young student said to me, nomads think vastly, act narrowly. I'm going to say it again. Nomads think vastly, act narrowly. Now, whenever I talk about this in any speech, people go, that's the one that I pick up. Why? It's not like think global or act local. That's not like that at all. It is about vastness. Thinking vastly is opening the mind, opening the body, opening. And this is what we do in coaching. We go get curious and we start to open, because people come to us in a narrow state. And this is what's happening when we have these mental challenges, is that we're in this narrow state. Yesterday, for example, I have a client that is really challenged at the moment, from work, from relationships, from her children, from her mother, it's like everything is like coming at the same time. And I can sense she's in the beginnings of some sort of burnout, which is not a good place to be. And because her mind and everything is so narrow, it's so tight. And we need to be able to find these different mechanisms which will help us to open and to understand it's this width. Go wide, go wide, go wide, and then narrow in on a solution. That, I think, is what is happening for a lot of us in mental, is one of the things that is challenged, if you take it deeper from mental wellness, is that the youth of today are seeing the challenges of no jobs. But now we need to widen that up and go, well, what other ways can you move forward? You don't have to do everything that is like a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant. There are other things to be able to do in life. But because our culture has closed us, we don't see that width of possibility. And our education is sometimes doing that. So the width, our bandwidth, as we call it sometimes, is very narrow. We need to go wide on the bandwidth, right? You know, remember on radios, we need to have a wide band, you know, that you're playing. You need to have the technology to be able to have a really wide band. And that's exactly the same thing for us as individuals, is we need this width. So the width can come through some of the things that I've already talked about. But most of all, one of the things that's actually really important, I think, for a lot, and especially if people are listening from India or wherever, they've grown up from the fact of meditation and stillness and this idea. And meditation is really a place to widen. So meditation, take a break from your social media. Don't believe everything that's on social media. Don't engage in everything that's in social media. Engage in only what is important to you. Sleep, 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 sleep. Physical exercise is extremely important, but also to just really understand, to put a context into things that for the youth, for example, not only about where is their future, but what is the planet, is to get them engaged in understanding what's going on so that they become social activists for their own future. There's way too many people that are turning a blind eye and very short-term thinking about the planet, biodiversity, the decline of the planet. And we need to really understand that. And we need to do something about it. Because it's not just one person. We need to hold our governments responsible. We need to hold organizations responsible. And we need to hold ourselves and our families responsible. And our friends and our circles. Why? Because this will help our mental well-being to be able to cope and then thrive into the future. Why? Because we've gone wide and have a bigger picture of all the risks, the threats, and seeing them from a distance. We can see the opportunities, the possibilities. When you're narrow, it's very hard to see them. Would you say so, Chandra?
Well, Kevin, I think you told us many, many important things. And one thing I'd like to share with you is that I know for sure that the 8 hours of sleep is definitely required because brain has to do cleaning functions. That is where I read somewhere that it does the cleaning function where it actually stores unwanted things into a hard disk somewhere deep down, so you don't need it for tomorrow, and keep remaining things in your RAM, random access memory. So it needs time to declutter your mind, and that is why sleep is required. But we know that. But I think all of us, including myself, I don't think I can sleep for more than 5.5 hours to 6 hours. Whatever I do, I cannot sleep. And whenever I get up, there is pressure on my head. The pressure is, oh, I got some 300 emails, as you rightly pointed out, and I need to start responding now, because if I do it now, I will have more time for my breakfast. So, that is where the day starts. You have not left the bed and you're answering your email. I think this is happening to almost everybody, whether they're young people or even middle-aged person like me and even elders. So it's a common phenomena. But the youths are, more affected because they've just started their life and they're getting into a rut. So I think what I am asking you is basically give us a very small solution. You already told us that, hey, keep the mobile outside your bedroom. It's easier said than done, actually. It's an addiction. So I think what you can tell us is, some sort of activity-based regime which youth can follow and change their lifestyle. Is it possible to do it in this program, or you would like to consult some of these people on one-on-one? How does it work, basically, if this is something that people need today?
Well, I think that it's a longer subject than what we have today, but I think that the people are able to consult with me if they wish to at some point in time and to reach out. I'm very helpful. I'm grateful for that. But one thing that you can do, as I say, is that these are creating habits, and we need to create a habit which is the one that you wish to be beneficial. They call this, there's a phenomena called habit stacking. I don't know if you've ever heard of this. Have you heard of it?
I've heard of different types of stacking, Kevin. For example, things like hashtag stacking. When you're posting something, hashtag is also can be stacked in your post, which is counterproductive. So things like that. So I presume habit stacking is also similar to that.
Habit stacking is where you have a habit which is that you like and it works well for you, and your new habit that you do it at the same time, which is very not familiar for you, and what the habit that is successful for you will help to motivate the other habit, because it's not alone. It is actually doing it. So, for example, in habit stacking, you might be very good at meditation, and it's a ritual for you. And so that you do that, but at the same time as you're doing the meditation, is that you're recognizing in your mind that you need peace. For example, that may not be something that is there for you, but you have a challenge with peace in your life once you come out of meditation, but it's to put the two together, is to understand the two. One is easy and the other one is a bit more challenging, and to see how that peace can help to take you forward. I mean, it's very simple in the sense of another way of habit stacking you can see is very simple, is that you wash your teeth, brush your teeth, right? And so that is okay. But then the affirmations, for example, are not so easy for you because you don't remember them. But you do an affirmation every time that you are brushing your teeth. So then it becomes a habit. So we have to create these habits. For example, as you talked about, is putting your phone out of your room. So one thing is I like to sleep. So that's a habit, it's a ritual, and it's also a necessity for you in life. And you allow yourself to have the habit of sleeping, but you say to my sleeping, I'm going to put my phone outside. And then you come in and you sleep. So you allow it to be there, but you say, I'm going to take it outside of the room. But you're focusing on the sleep. And that's the most important thing, and not on the social media, which is keeping you awake.
Well, those are good tips. One question I have, Kevin, is which is related to youth specifically. And it's about giving them direction. Because I think what is missing is, all these things are fine. You leave your mobile outside. It's their habit. We need to tell them, hey, don't be habituated to certain way of life. However, I think all this will be driven if there is a goal assigned to them. So is there an easy method to assign a goal? For example, if there is somebody has to achieve something like score a distinction in mathematics or score marks in social studies, So is there a possibility of assigning a goal which can give them direction? Is there a method to this madness, Kevin?
There's no real concrete method to any of that madness around goals, I believe. Anyway, some people will be, swear up and down. So I believe a goal is an idea, a place forward, it's a direction. However, the journey towards it is the most important thing, is what are you learning as you get there? So if your goal is to write an exam, it's not to put the focus on the exam and the goal and getting the marks, but the goal is to reverse that and look at what is the journey, what am I learning, what is in that I can utilize, and then think about the exam when it happens. But if you put the focus on the wrong syllable, as I say it, the wrong syllable being only the marks, then you're going to be pretty stressed and you may not remember everything. So the point here is, yes, it's good to have a goal. Yes, it's good to have a direction, but make sure that you put the focus on the learning journey. And that learning journey, you need to go wide, as I said before you go narrow. Thinking about the goal is quite narrow because it cuts you off from all other types of learning, experiences, possibilities, because you're just seeing the end. In your example, I think you started to talk about youth, and I think it's really family it starts with. And family and sharing the values and sharing what is important. Some families don't really care about the amount of technology that their children have or how many hours they're on at a time until something happens. However, there's so much documentation. I know an Indian family here, their children were 13 and they still didn't have a phone. She says, I'm not letting them have a phone yet. They're fine. They're learning all sorts of other things. They can go on their computer, but not have a phone. So these types of things is about not allowing yourself to get wrapped up in the social consciousness of every child has a phone, every child has the latest gadget, every child has No, it's not living up to the Joneses. It's about what is important that you feel moving forward for the child and their learning journey. Sure, that might be part of their learning journey, but the point here is the values and the purpose that you're giving to them, educating them about the bigger picture of life, what is happening in not only in technology and jobs and whichever, but what is happening as far as the climate and getting interested. This is important, I believe, to helping them move forward, is the home and the social interaction, not necessarily on social media.
Well, I think this is a very big subject, very vast subject. We can't finish in 20 to 30 minutes. It requires a lot of in-depth analysis, and every individual is different. His needs are different. His mind works differently. So there is no cookie cutter solution available. But the fact of the matter is, Kevin has come forward being such an experienced person. He's actually, he can help you train your mind in order to get focused, in order to sleep well, in order to get decluttered with your habits, and so many other things. It's a huge subject, Kevin. Thank you so much for finding time and joining us, Kevin.
It's my great honor to be here with you, and thank you so much for the invitation.
Great, Kevin, it was lovely talking to you, and we will catch up in the next show. Until then, I'd like to say goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Hello friends, welcome to Akulmach Live. We all know that India, the Indian part, the peninsula was connected to Africa 200 million years back, and for certain time it was an island. Eventually it hit the European Asian belt to form Plateau of Tibet and also the Himalayas, the legendary Himalayas. As we know, the Himalayas are the youngest and the world highest mountain. However, we have found that this record is going to be broken very soon. How? The other part of Africa, which is after the Rift Valley, there is a Rift Valley in Africa, and that whole portion of the Eastern African continent is breaking apart. However, the topmost portion of that belt, which will break apart in future, there is a country called Somalia, the current day Somalia. The Somalian part will hit India, and this will create a situation where a huge mountain range will be created on the western coast of India, and this mountain range is now dubbed as Somalia, and it is going to beat Himalayas not only in terms of the length of the mountain, but also in height. And there is going to be dramatic change in this entire landscape, because one side we have Himalaya still forming and increasing in height, and on the western side there will be another land mass, and in between India current land mass and this new land mass, the much bigger mountain, much higher mountain is going to form. So we don't know exactly how it will change the geography of this region, because currently we have monsoons and whole lot of weather system which is controlled by Himalayas. But when this happens, we have no idea right now, or very difficult to predict what will be the changes in terms of weather systems, in terms of geology, etc. But one thing is very, very clear, that when this happens, the current western coast of India will be buried almost 50 kilometers below the Somalian belt. And then eventually Somalian belt will rotate to form these mountains. So it appears, friends, that this is a very exciting information. And, I will meet you with more stuff, more information in the next video. But if you have any comments, do write in and I will respond to each one of you. And I will meet